Chapter 9, 67. Longhair Fortress, Tower of Pillars, 6th floor. Oh, so there's still a rabbit here. As soon as Bloody Corpse God stepped onto this floor, he saw an ordinary-looking rabbit alien in a white t-shirt. Although this rabbit alien looked no different from a common soldier, and his appearance was not as sharp as a common soldier's, he was unusually calm when he saw Bloody Corpse God. He slowly looked at the monster in front of him and asked, "The one who turned the city upside down, is it you?" With just one sentence, the Blood Corpse God could tell that the other party had an extraordinary aura and was definitely not an ordinary soldier. He immediately said solemnly, "Then you have misunderstood. The people who are cleaning up your subordinates in the city are 3 Earthlings, and I am only responsible for raiding the heart of this fortress. That is to say, you are my enemy," the rabbit alien said again. "Aha!" Bloody Corpse God laughed. "In a sense, yes, for food, diners are indeed natural enemies. This is a very interesting metaphor," the rabbit alien said again. "But I don't know, you and me. Who will be the one who will be eaten? You will know soon." Bloody Corpse God wanted to call out to the other party, but he realized that he had not asked for the other party's name. "By the way, what is your name?" The rabbit alien looked at Bloody Corpse God and replied coldly, "I am the head of the long-hair 6 heavenly officials, Upper Star Lord Carrot." "Carrot?" Bloody Corpse God repeated the other party's name and laughed. "Ha! All right, Mr. Carrot. Judging from your title, you should be a powerful character. What you said just now also shows that you won't just sit still and wait for your death. Instead, you'll turn the tables and become a host." He paused for half a second. "If that's the case, I'll give you a chance." He opened his arms and continued arrogantly, "Show me your martial arts skills as much as you like. I'll treat it as an entertainment show. That way, when I eat you, it'll be more flavorful." What a joke. Although Carlos said the word joke, he didn't laugh. He just snorted and replied, "Wait until you see my long-haired, godly fist strongest man unique skill. Long-haired Phoenix Fist, then you will know how ridiculous your words and actions are now." On the other hand, somewhere in Long-Hair Stronghold, it's done so quickly. Wang Tanji squatted on the top of a building, looking at the bodies of the rabbit alien people all over the ground, and muttered to himself, "Although Brother Ju said to let me try the actual effect of this thing, is it really good to show the special effects of the new equipment in a live broadcast like this?" At this moment, Xiao Tan's assassin hood had an additional mask. The face had a very clear line in the middle. The left half of the face was orange while the right half was black. The mask had no other obvious features. There were no details for the nose, mouth, or ears. Only the eyes had a leathery texture. And the new equipment Xiao Tan was referring to as naturally this: name, Deathstroke Shadow, type, armor, rarity, legendary, defense. None attribute, none special effect. When equipped, all combat and reconnaissance skills below level A will be judged as level A. All combat and reconnaissance skills that are level A will be judged as level S. Skill consumption remains unchanged. Power and effect increase. Equip requirement: Reconnaissance A, Combat. Remark: this mask had accompanied a master tactician who was proficient in various combat and assassination techniques for many years. It had almost become a symbol of death and victory, until one day, its owner finally fell in front of the enemy's weapon, causing it to be stained with the blood, spirit, and soul of the cold-blooded warrior. From then on, the legend of the Shadow of the Deathstroke began. Without a doubt, this mask was one of the 3 treasures that Xiao Tan had obtained from Blackbeard's treasure cave. Although the description of this equipment was not as complicated as other legendary items, the simple and easy-to-understand passive effect was definitely worthy of the legendary grade. Just now, Xiao Tan had only used reverse spinning slash on a group of slave supervisors in Longhair Fortress. But the power of this level D skill after being upgraded to level O was far beyond Xiao Tan's imagination. This round was almost like using a 30-second peerless slash. The effect was truly like cutting grass. On the other side of Longhair Fortress, the slave market. "Do you have anything else that you haven't told me?" When Xiao Ling asked this question, The muzzle of the Ultimax 100 in her hand was pressed against the forehead of a bunny alien. The bunny alien was scared witless. He knelt on the ground and sobbed. Really nothing else. I have told you everything I know. I'm really just a manager. I have never killed a human. Rabbit, please believe me. Oomph. Xiao Ling sneered at him. It doesn't matter whether I believe you or not. As she spoke, she looked around. At this moment, other than the bodies of the 6 heavenly officials, there were also many men, women, and children in tattered clothes, all covered in wounds. It doesn't matter whether you've killed someone or not. She paused for a moment. Sometimes, those whose hands are not stained with blood are even dirtier than those whose hands are stained with blood. This dirtiness will not be covered by glamorous appearance or hypocritical words, because it is clearly revealed in the eyes of those who have been tortured by you to the point where they are better off dead. At this point, Xiao Ling put away her gun and turned to leave. As she took a step forward, she didn't even look back as she said, "How to deal with this person is up to you to decide." Her words were undoubtedly directed at the slaves around her. Oh, right, no matter what you do to him, you don't have to worry about being investigated, because today is the end of these oppressors. Long hair, Citadel, Barracks. You monster! A bunny alien with thick, long, lion-like hair and brown fur all over his body sat on the ground, looking at a lone figure standing not far away with a horrified look in his eyes. He muttered in a trembling voice, You actually, in an instant, our long-haired planet Wucha, sorry. Ruai, you interrupted the guy. I don't know what you were talking about. When I attacked just now, I didn't notice that there were 5 particularly powerful people, rabbits, here. As she spoke, she once again raised the Xian Yuan sword in her hand. I'm afraid I don't have much time left. There are still many guys like you that I need to clean up, so she didn't say the rest of the so, and the sword in her hand didn't fall. Because the guy on the ground had already been injured by the sword and was in a state of dying. At this time, after being frightened by her, his blood pressure rose sharply, his wound burst open, and he suddenly vomited blood and died. This scene was nothing to her, but in the eyes of the audience watching the live broadcast, it was too cool. Everyone had seen players kill NPCs before, but they had never seen players who could scare an NPC to death. Although the NPC was indeed injured, the wound was obviously not fatal. The cause of death was more of scared to death. Can this heroine's performance be more domineering and cool? Hey, husband, their team's crazy captain, and this beautiful swordsman are so powerful. I feel like they could take on 10 people by themselves. Passing Rain Ruali. I haven't seen her ID on the leaderboard. What's going on? Maybe she keeps a low profile. I have never heard of her since the closed beta, and I didn't see any information about her when I was in S1. But her strength, no matter how I look at it, she is at the super level. I say, isn't the overall combat power of this underworld frontline a bit too exaggerated? They're also in the top 10 of the preliminaries, but the second team of Zombie Blade was completely destroyed by them. Instantly, the comments on the various livestream platforms welcomed a new wave of popularity. At this stage of the competition, there was basically no suspense because the result was obvious. The performance of Xiao Tan and Xiao Ling aside, based on the power displayed by Brother Ju and Ruo Yu, it felt like they had beaten the entire enemy team single-handedly. Therefore, the focus of the audience's discussion moved from the competition to something else. After that day, Underworld Frontline became famous. Other than Hannah Jian, who had not appeared yet, Feng Bujue, Wang Tanji, Passing Rain Ruali, and Laughing Soul gained a large group of fans overnight. And of the 4 of them, the most popular one was undeniably Xiao Tan. This kind of cute and innocent young man who gave off the feeling that he was easy to bully, but at the most crucial moment, he could show off his strength. He was extremely attractive to women of all ages. Other than that, there was no lack of male players who wanted him to pick up soap. Of course, that was a story for another day. Let's turn our attention back to the desert. Just as the 3 players from Underworld Frontline and Bloody Corpse God finished off Long Hair City, the battle on Feng Bujue's side continued. Your summon creature is not bad either. As Feng Bujue dodged the attacks from Zombie Tiger, He used a relaxed and lazy tone to talk to the controller who was hiding behind the summoned creature. To be honest, the trait of immortality is quite useful. From the data perspective, Feng Bujue had already seen through the assault of the 3 jade monsters. Take this zombie tiger as an example. As one of the 2 strongest summoned beasts of a rank S summoning specialist, its combat power was naturally not weak. Other than its sturdy body, strong melee combat ability, and extremely high physical attack and defense, the zombie tiger also had the characteristic of immortality. In other words, after the summoned creature was summoned, unless the user dispelled it on their own or suffered more than 50% physical damage, no matter how they were attacked, it would not die. At most, it would fall into a state similar to coma. The length of this coma depended on the severity of its injuries. For example, if a zombie tiger's head was chopped off, then it would remain unconscious until its head grew back. If it was chopped in half, then the larger side would become the new main body, and it would immediately begin to fill in the gaps. The unconscious time would also continue until it grew back into a complete zombie tiger. Seeing this, people would definitely ask, what if it was chopped into 18 pieces? But that didn't matter. No matter how many pieces the corpse tiger was chopped into, its body parts would continue to move towards the other parts at the fastest speed possible. At the same time, the new main body was also undergoing self-healing. If the separated parts returned to the main body halfway through the self-healing process, the main body would devour them. This action would greatly speed up the healing process. To put it simply, the best way to kill a zombie tiger was to blast 51% of its body into smithereens with a high intensity of energy impact. Of course, there was another way to make it immobile for a long time before its body was destroyed. That was to use a very high attack to hit it. For example, if a giant scion whose size was more than 10 times bigger than Corpse Tiger ferociously gave it a tortoise fist, then according to the principle of the more serious the injury, the longer the coma, it may lie down for 10 days to half a month. Finally, there was another point to mention. The duration of this summoned creature was unlimited. However, after the user dispelled it, the skill would still enter the cooldown time. In summary, it was not difficult to see that with Feng Buju's ability, the best way to deal with Zombie Tiger was undoubtedly Tri-Beam. But this skill had a certain probability of causing the user to die on the spot. Brother Ju did not want to take this risk in this situation. Secondly, using Ben to shoot a powerful ammunition may be able to kill this summoned creature, but there was no such thing nearby for the time being. Moreover, the effect of the ammunition shot by Bayan was random. Even if he took out an unknown thing and shot it, it may not have the effect of annihilation. Thirdly, using Renkyaku to cut Zombie Tiger into many pieces, making it unable to participate in the battle for a short time. It seemed to be a good idea. Unfortunately, judging from the results of the Renkyaku chaos, this thing's physical defense was very high, and its skin was very thick. He might not be able to cut it open. Moreover, in this open desert, there was no barrier between the cut pieces of the corpse tiger's body. Even if they were cut open, they would quickly reassemble themselves. Therefore, when Brother Ju fought a battle of attrition with Zombie Tiger, while Triple Jade Strong controlled Brother Ju to control Zombie Tiger, Brother Ju did not make any contribution. It has been almost 10 minutes. It should be about time. After the fight between the man and the monster for a long time, 3 Jade Strong Assault thought to himself, my life points, stamina points, and mana points are almost depleted, but his stamina points and life points are depleting at a certain rate. This guy is definitely not the kind of person who will sit still and wait for his death. He will not let this situation continue. When he thinks that he has figured out the movement pattern of me and the Zombie Tiger, he will definitely change his tactics and find a chance to attack me. And at that time, he will be finished. Chapter 968. Feng Bujue did not make his opponent wait for too long. Just like how he didn't let the bait plan of being reborn as king fail. As long as he stood opposite him in the game world for a while, Feng Bujue could use observation to get all the data of the opponent. Therefore, The so-called plan of the members of Zombie Blade was not beyond Brother Jew's expectation. If Feng Bujua wanted to, he could have avoided getting hit by flickering charge. If he wanted to, he could have fought 3 Jade Assault in a very short amount of time instead of getting into this kind of tug-of-war with his opponent. But he still tried his best to follow his opponent's plan and bring the battle to this point. And this was all part of the big plan Brother Jew had in his mind. If he went easy on his opponent, he would be seen through. If he killed his opponent instantly, he would give away information. Only this kind of battle that was in between, where he used 70 to 80% of his power, could confuse his opponent. He's about to make his move when Feng Bujua slowly pulled the zombie tiger away from 3 Jade Storm. The latter thought to himself, "That must be it. First, he has the zombie tiger stay away from me, and then he will increase his speed to shake off the summoned creature and then attack me." His speculation was not wrong. That was Feng Bujua's plan, and such a plan was exactly what the 3 Jade Strong Assault wanted. Because the second S-grade summon creature of 3 Jade Assault was name, summon, exploding armor beast skill card property, active, permanent skill type, summoning effect, summon an exploding armor beast that can live on the user's armor. There is no time limit. After death, there will be a 24-hour cooldown. Only one exploding armor beast can exist at a time. Consumption, 50% of maximum sorcerer points, learning requirement. Summoning S. Remark. This is a kind of shapeless summon creature. It does not have a physical body. After being summoned, it will live on the armor worn by its master, usually the body armor, and increase the defense of the armor by 30%. The exploding armor beast will enter a standby state until the master activates its ability, exploding armor beast. Hyperlink. Name, explosive return. Effect, for 10 seconds, the parasitized armor's defense will be greatly increased. All melee damage received will be reflected back at a random ratio of 80% to 100%, and it will be accompanied by explosive power. Remark. After explosive return is used, the explosive armor beast will die immediately and enter a cooldown period for summoning. Up until the end of the preliminaries, the existence of the exploding armor beast had not been exposed by the 3 Jade attacks. The reason was simple. It was because he still had his zombie tiger. Based on a standard in the preliminaries, his undead summon that could attack and defend was enough to win the entire competition. No one could force him to use a special skill, like explosive return. However, this was the semifinals. Strictly speaking, it was no different from the finals. Teams that could enter the semifinals were at least first-rate teams, and the rules of the competition were that they would be eliminated as long as they lost one match. Furthermore, he was facing the famous Feng Bujua. At a time like this, he had no reason to hold anything back. Anything that he could use, anything that he had at the bottom of his chest, should be used without hesitation. As the leader of the second team of Zombie Blade, as the last remaining member of the second team, 3 Jade Attacks knew very well that there was no hope of winning this match. After all, there were still 3 living players and a Blood Corpse god at Underworld Frontline. Whether Feng Bujua's statement of going to attack Longhair Fortress was just a cover for his teammates who were hiding nearby, or it was real, for 3 Jade Attacks, there was no real difference. Therefore, 3 Jade Attacks had given up on the idea of winning the match and focused his attention on how to win against Feng Bujua. Even if he lost, it did not matter. As long as he could defeat Feng Bujua, he could redeem some reputation for Zombie Blade. As long as he could defeat Feng Bujua, he could redeem some reputation for his teammates. As long as he could defeat Feng Bujua, no matter what, he could add a highlight to his professional record. With this mentality, 3 Jade Attacks was betting everything on this. But this guy's going to use explosive return, right? Feng Bujua, who suddenly picked up speed and circled around Zombie Tiger, was still thinking in that short moment. To create the effect of being tricked, I should at least use a skill with a certain degree of power to attack him. If this act of wasting time, testing his defense, increasing speed, and attacking the real body ends with a slap to the face, then the whole act will be ruined. But if the attack is too powerful, what if I end up killing myself? His brain moved at an amazing speed. In a short amount of time, he could think of many things. All right, I can use that. Soon, Fong Bujue came up with a good idea. Die. On the surface, Brother Ju still had to complete the act. When he picked up speed, he even shouted and morphed into a red shadow, charging at his opponent. 3 Jade attacks was very calm. He did not show any reaction because his opponent had fallen into his trap. He tried his best to act as if he was trying to escape. He also understood that before an opponent like Fong Bujue, any kind of unnatural movement could be seen through. So, before the opponent's attack landed, the 3 Jades assault was still as normal as it could be. As the saying went, life depended on acting. The so-called acting skills could also be seen as a means of deceit. There is no derogatory meaning in this. Please do not overinterpret it. And deception was undeniably one of the main foundations of strategy and strategy. Be it card battle, real-time strategy, turn strategy, or team battle. In these competitive games, acting was something that could not be ignored, and it was an important part of one's capability. At that moment, 3 Jade attacks and Brother Ju were showing off their acting skills. However, 3 Jade attacks was acting for Brother Ju alone, and Brother Ju's level of planning was much higher than his, so Brother Ju's performance had been planned from the start of the script. He was not only acting for 3 Jade attacks, he was acting for everyone who was watching and would be watching this match in the future. From this point of view, the difficulty of the two's performance could not be compared at all. You won't be able to escape. No one will be able to outrun me if I use my maximum speed. When Fong Bujue caught up to 3 Jade attacks, he did not forget to yell at the top of his lungs like he was really running as fast as he could. It's over. Before he finished, Brother Ju's attack landed. At that moment, 3 Jade attacks activated explosive return. At that moment, the excitement in 3 Jade attacks' heart could not be described with words. Success. The leader of the 2nd Division of Zombie Blade revealed a smile. That arrogant Fong Bujue, that cunning Fong Bujue, has still been defeated by me. The human mind was an interesting thing. Sometimes, in a short moment, many things would flash through one's mind. For example, now, 3 Jade attacks could already see Fong Bujue dissolving in a white light before him with an unwilling expression on his face, and he mumbled, "You are so cunning." He could also see the large number of articles on the forums and the media the next day. Most of the headlines were like, "The 2nd Division of Zombie Blade was not strong enough and lost. Leader 3 Jade defeated Fong Bujue and lost with glory." He could also see himself rising up the ranks, leaving Zombie Blade, joining other studios, becoming a superstar player, marrying a rich and beautiful woman, and reaching the peak of his life. Unfortunately, this sweet dream of his lasted for too short time. Take this. Short hair, 100 Fisher Fist. Fong Bujue yelled out the name of the skill and threw it at his opponent. But Fong Bujue did not have the skill short hair, 100 Fisher Fist. On this point, Rabbit Out Yin, who stood far away, was the clearest. Even though Fong Bujue was shouting short hair, 100 Fisher Fist, and his movements were similar to short hair, 100 Fisher Fist, the moves that he was executing were definitely not short hair, 100 Fisher Fist. This kind of fighting style that only had the form but not the essence of the fist, and the core technique was, to put it bluntly, a set of super fast punches. But 3 Jade attacks did not know about this, and neither did the audience who were watching the match. They were not the descendants of the short hair 100 Fisher Fist, so who would know about the essence of the fist? Therefore, Fong Bujue's punches were seen as some kind of skill, and from the effect of the punches, it did not appear to be weaker than Flying Dragon Fist. Then it was time for explosive damage. The damage from Fong Bujue's punches were all imbued with an explosive effect, and they were applied to his own body. But the damage was too weak. Now, Brother Ju had the incredibly high defense, 1320 mean armor, and the shameless equipment that he had accumulated through multiple scenarios. I_1_B_belt. Taking on this kind of recoil damage was not going to hurt him at all. However, Brother Ju still showed pain and surprise on his face. After the attack, He quickly retreated and glared at 3 jade attacks. I didn't expect you to have this kind of skill that can reflect damage. The man was really evil. He was afraid that the audience would not understand what had just happened, so he did not forget to point out the fact that his opponent could reflect damage. On the other hand, 3 jade attacks felt like he was playing a game, the feeling of slowly climbing to the top and then falling to the bottom. He could not help but curse internally. What the F asterisk CK? 3 jade attacks immediately glanced at the life points that he had lost. 46%. It was not that high, but it was not that low either. To lose so much life points, even after his defense had been greatly increased, it was quite reasonable. This meant that his opponent had indeed used a rather powerful skill to attack him. But Feng Bujue did not die, which meant that, other things aside, in terms of defense, Feng Bujue's defense in his normal state was about the same as 3 jade attacks when he was under explosive damage. Damn it! The trap that 3 jade attacks had prepared for so long did not kill his opponent, and when Feng Bujue exposed the effect of his skill, explosive damage had already ended. This undoubtedly put 3 jade attacks into an extremely passive situation. I'm going to kill you. He controlled the zombie tiger to rush back. He took out a pedal from his inventory and prepared to fight with his life on the line. I think there's no need for that. At that moment, Feng Bujue's expression suddenly shifted. The wicked and evil smile appeared on his face again. Because you're already dead. What did you say? 3 jade attacks did not finish his sentence. Because at that moment, 2 Mark II grenades exploded inside his shirt pocket. Boom boom. 2 loud explosions were heard almost at the same time. No one, including 3 jade attacks himself, noticed when Feng Bujue had placed the grenades inside his shirt pocket. Rabbit Outyin and the livestream viewers were all stunned. Even if people who were hit by short-hair Hunter Crack Punch would explode, there should not be such an effect, right? Why was there still metal shrapnel? Current quest completed. All main quests completed. You have completed the scenario. Automatic teleportation in 180 seconds. The system announcement announced the end of the match. Actually, it was not that Feng Bujue was out of ideas. 3 jade attacks was the last member of Zombie Blade's second unit. If Feng Bujue wanted to act better, he could have activated body enhancement spell and used a level 10 wild ball punch on him. That way, both of them would have died together, and Underworld Frontline's victory would not have changed. But Brother Ju did not plan to die there. At least, he did not want his team to lose any members in the match with Zombie Blade. Indeed, he was very bad, but this kind of bad depended on who he was dealing with. Whenever Feng Bujue ran into an individual or team that used underhanded methods, this bad intention of his would be infinitely magnified, just like what he did on I Am a Writer. Perhaps not everyone could see his intention, and he might be misunderstood or even hated, but he did what he wanted to do, and he would never regret it. 2 minutes ago, Longhair Fortress, Tower of Pillars, 6th floor. This is impossible. Carlos collapsed in a pool of blood, and his face was filled with shock. His kingly demeanor had turned into the lament of a loser. I'm the strongest striker. I am the king of this apocalypse. You lowly commoners should all kneel at my feet. How can an ugly monster defeat me? If you are the strongest striker, then I am the god of fighting. The god of blood looked down at his opponent and laughed coldly. If you're the king of the apocalypse, then I am the king of the universe. He shook his head and spread out his hands. This world is very big. I thought I was already the strongest in the universe, but recently, I realized there are many people who are stronger than me. There are countless people in the universe, so I think you should relax and treat yourself as a plate of rabbit meat. Then, he squatted down and started to eat. What are you doing? Carlos saw the god of blood reach out his claws and was shocked. No, impossible. Are you really going to eat, The god of blood was indeed hungry, so he ate Carlos until there was nothing left, and it only took him 2 minutes. Burp. After burping, the god of blood stretched lazily and looked at the stairs at the other end of the room. This tower has a 7th floor? But this Carlos that I ate should be the last long-hair 6 guy official. So what will be at the top? He mumbled to himself as he hurried over. The god of blood knew that his time in the scenario was limited. If he was summoned by other members of Underworld Frontline, he would be summoned for 15 minutes, but if he was summoned by Feng Bujue due to the effect of Alchemist King's taunt, he could last for more than 20 minutes. When he reached the end of the stairs, the god of blood saw a door made from pure silver. On the door, there was a strange magic circle. In this apocalyptic world, it was not easy to find a few sets of silverware, so this door made from pure silver was unimaginable. Furthermore, something like a magic circle did not seem to fit in with the overall setting of this world, so it was no wonder the god of blood was confused. The god of eternal life, who was destroyed by the two mortals, your last strand of consciousness, escaped into the turbulence of time and space. After being exiled, you came here. I pity you, but I can't let you run amok in my universe. Therefore, rest here forever. I will have the strongest Wu on this planet watch over you, and it will not stop until the end of the world. The god of blood was very old, and he was very knowledgeable. He fully understood the information in the magic circle and said, "Oh, the god of eternal life. Is it? Ha! Another self-proclaimed god. But from the information revealed by this magic circle, not only have you been defeated, you have also been sealed. I believe you are god in name only." With that in mind, he could not help but chuckle bitterly. Humph! Am I not a god as well? Out of a strange state of mind, the god of blood reached out to use his own power to wipe away the magic power of the magic circle. In the next second, he could clearly feel a wave of mana dissipating. This meant that some kind of powerful seal had been broken. Then, let me deal with you. As the blood corpse god spoke, he had already raised his arm to push open the door. In the face of the distorted energy that surged out from behind the door, his expression did not change. The so-called god of eternal life. Chapter 969. The seventh floor of the tower was completely sealed, and the interior was completely dark. But Blood Corpse God didn't seem to be affected by this environment. After all, he had been imprisoned in a dark environment for many years. With his Inghong xenogenic powers, he had mastered night vision a long time ago. Then, are you the god of eternal life? After the Blood Corpse God stepped into the silver door, he only glanced at the darkness in front of him. Then his gaze locked onto a figure, and he asked. After a moment of silence, a voice replied, "My name is Duoma, the god of eternal life." As a god, aren't you a little too amiable? At that moment, in the Blood Corpse God's eyes, what he saw was indeed a naked bunny alien. There was nothing else in the room. My current body structure is just to adapt to the surrounding environment, Duoma replied. If I wish, I can change my body into something else that has more combat power. No, you're lying. The Blood Corpse God instantly denied the other party's claim. Duoma did not reply, but looked silently at the Blood Corpse God who stood at the door. At least before I remove the seal on this door. The Blood Corpse God raised his hand and used his thumb to point at the door behind him. Your instant evolution power is still in a state where it cannot be used. He smiled. Ha! Even now, your condition is not good. Looks like the message on the seal is real. You only have a sliver of consciousness left, and combined with the many years of being sealed, your power is almost depleted. Even if I release you now, you will need a lot of time to gather power before you can return to your peak condition. Hearing that, Duoma fell silent again. You removed the seal just to tell me this. I removed the seal out of curiosity, the Blood Corpse God said. But now, I just want to, just as the Blood Corpse God was about to say eat you, the last player from Underworld Frontline who had not chosen to be teleported out of the scenario. In the next second, a white light flashed, and the Blood Corpse God was also teleported away. Some things were just that coincidental. When the Blood Corpse God finished the cowlot and saw the seal, Feng Bujue had just finished dealing with the 3 Jade assault. The Blood Corpse God did not hear the system announcement that the players heard, so he had no idea that he only had 180 seconds left in his active time. As a result, this rather awkward situation had occurred. 2 minutes later, in Feng Bujue's storage room. What's going on? Brother Jew suddenly felt something when he was sorting things out. He immediately took out the Blood Corpse God's Magatama from his bag and found that it was indeed vibrating and glowing. Brother Jew hesitated for 2 seconds before trying to activate the item. In the end, nothing happened. Of course, this was normal. Normally, summoned creatures were not allowed to appear in the space outside the scenario. Even though there were a few exceptions, like the summoned creature that Uncle Worthless obtained a long time ago, the Blood Corpse God was obviously not one of them. But stop trying. I can't get out. Suddenly, a voice came from Magatama. Fong Bujue was startled. Blood Corpse God? Who else? The Blood Corpse God replied. Did I find a group of people to have a party in my soul fragment? What the F***CK? So, you can communicate with me through the Magatama? Brother Jew cursed. Yes. The Blood Corpse God answered weakly. Then, Fong Bujue said as he raised the Magatama high. Can you see the scenery on my side? I know what you're planning. The Blood Corpse God said. You'd better give up. The only thing I can communicate with you is sound. TSK. Fong Bujue shrugged. So I can't see it. Then he put down his arm. Actually, Brother Jew's idea was, if he came across any ancient words, magic circles, or thousand-year-old carcasses that he could not understand, he would take out the Magatama and have the Blood Corpse God help him identify it. Unfortunately, the man said that he could only listen and speak. Without a picture, it would be hard to do something like that. All right, let's stop talking about that. I contacted you because I have something to tell you. The Blood Corpse God soon returned to the main topic. What is it? Fong Bujue held the Magatama in one hand like he was using a walkie-talkie, and his other hand continued to organize the items. That was how he was. He liked to do multiple things at the same time, or else he would feel like his talent for multitasking was being wasted. Before you teleported, I released a lesser god from a sealed room, the Blood Corpse God said. Oh, Fong Bujue replied casually. A second later, he came back to his senses and exclaimed loudly, Huh? Its name is Duo Ma, known as the God of Eternal Life. The Blood Corpse God said a long time ago it was destroyed by someone in a certain space-time. However, it still managed to protect a strand of its consciousness and escaped into the universe that we were in previously. Then, a certain powerhouse in that universe took advantage of Duo Ma's weakened state and sealed it at the top of the tower in Longhair City. It was guarded by the 6 heavenly officials of Longhair. Oh, of course, the 6 heavenly officials were only guards. With their abilities, they might not even be able to understand what Duo Ma is. You understand? Fong Bujue asked. Didn't I say it was a lesser god? The Blood Corpse God replied. So what does that mean? Brother Bujue asked again. Let's put it this way. Although I also call myself a god, in essence, I am still just a living creature, the Blood Corpse God replied. No matter how useless a lesser god is, fundamentally speaking, it is still a god. Is it really okay for you to release that kind of thing? Fong Bujue asked. Furthermore, that planet is in the main universe. It will interact with the other 4-pillar gods sooner or later. Actually, I was just curious at first. I wanted to see if what the seal said was true, the Blood Corpse God replied. After seeing Duo Ma, I immediately decided to take advantage of the fact that it had not recovered its power to eat it and absorb its power. He paused and sighed. But, just as I was about to make my move, all of you guys teleported. As a summoned creature, I followed along and left that world. At this point, the Blood Corpse God changed the topic. As for what you said, it's okay for me to release that kind of thing. He laughed. Haha, nonsense. Of course it's okay. Otherwise, why would I contact you? Chapter 970. Based on the rules of battling 4 worlds, the matches would be held the next day. In other words, after the first round ended at midnight on the 5th of November, the second round would be held on the 7th of November, and the matchup for the second round would be announced at 8 a.m. on the 6th of November. Therefore, the whole day of the 5th to the morning of the 6th was considered a break. This whole day, other than allowing the players to rest and prepare for the next round, it was also a chance for the audience to digest the news from the previous day. In the first round, The match that received the most attention was naturally the one between Underworld Frontline and the second team of Zombie Blade. Whether it was the result or the process, this match was unexpected. Zombie Blade had indeed used illegal methods. Of that, as long as one was in the industry, even if they were not 100% sure, they would at least know a thing or two about it. But because of that, they knew very well that the players from Zombie Blade were not easy to deal with. In terms of statistics, the players of Zombie Blade had access to the resources of the entire gaming studio, and that was something that casual players could not compare to. In terms of personal ability, these people who had used the drug were the type that would not self-destruct, and their combat power was at the top level. In terms of teamwork, the 13 teams of Zombie Blade were all selected by the Photon computer, and the attributes of all the members were reasonably compatible with each other. However, such a team was easily wiped out by Underworld Frontline. The difference in actual combat ability was so big that it was hard to believe. Compared to the matches of other teams, this match was not exciting at all. It gave the impression that the 4 members of Underworld Frontline had gone to clear a team dungeon and took down the 4 members of the second team of Zombie Blade. This kind of match, combined with Fong Bujiue's words and actions during the match, undoubtedly lowered the reputation of Zombie Blade among the normal players. If the internet was an invisible demon, then information represented the endless power of this demon. The latter was like cancer. Once it spread, it was impossible to completely eradicate it. After watching the match, many people went online to search for keywords like Zombie Blade, cheating, illegal, banned drugs, and so on. Then they became haters. Actually, the negative news about Zombie Blade was already out there, and it did not affect them that much. This was because other studios would be criticized as well, and whether the negative comments were real or not, no one would know. The netizens were just there to watch the show. Even the biggest news would be washed away by time, much less this kind of small matter that had nothing to do with the netizens. Moreover, in this day and age, competitors in the same industry would use online ghostwriters to bully each other every day. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was normal. Except for a small number of fools, people had long been used to and had seen through this pattern. Therefore, Zombie Blade was not afraid of what others said about them. But the things that Fong Bujue had done in the competition did have a certain effect on the competition. This was because he was not an anonymous player, and he was not talking about Zombie Blade on a forum or something like that. He was using the identity of a famous player, and he was talking about Zombie Blade openly and clearly in front of everyone in the most popular game of the day. In other words, Fong Bujue was not just a famous player. With the promotion from Sirue Group, he was at least a slightly famous author. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was a public figure. In that case, if Zombie Blade did not do anything, it would look like they had admitted to their illegal behavior. November 5th, 2 p.m. Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. Someone knocked on Fong Bujue's door. Brother Ju walked to the door. Without looking through the peephole, he opened the door. Without even looking at the door, he turned around and said, "There are shoe covers in the shoebox. Help yourself." "What's wrong? Do I need to put on shoe covers when I enter your house?" Even though Ouyang Ruo asked, he still did as he was told. "What about the floor?" Fong Bujue drawled. "Ruo, you just swept and mopped it this morning. If you leave a trail of footprints on the floor, I will definitely come to your grave next year and personally fold a box of gold ingots to burn for you." "Ah, understandable." As Ouyang Ruo spoke, he had already put on his shoe covers. "There was one time when I came home late after working overtime. My wife had just cleaned up the kitchen and left me dinner in the microwave. But I didn't know, so I went to the fridge and took something to cook. I even made a mess in the kitchen." He paused for a moment, and a pained expression flashed across his face. "So, the next day, we got a new car." "That's a good story," Fong Bujue said. "So, are we talking about respect other people's hard work or never offend your woman?" As he spoke, he slumped down on the sofa. Maybe it's respect other people's hard work." Ouyang Ruo followed him and sat across Brother Ju. After he said that, the two of them went silent for a few seconds. Then, almost at the same time, they burst out laughing. Looking at the two of them being so shameless, Arthas thought to himself, if these two don't go to hell after they die. I'll write my name backwards. By the way, what's going on today? Why did you start the 3 long and 2 short plan? Actually, the 3 long and 2 short plan refers to the way he knocked on the door just now. It was one of the secret signals between him and Fong Bujue. Ouyang Ruo stopped laughing and brought the topic back on track. Oh, you're getting to the point so soon? Fong Bujue said. I thought we were still at the stage of testing each other's verbal skills by making fun of each other after meeting each other. Ha ha ha. Ouyang Ruo laughed. Let me remind you again, I charge based on time. Don't think that just because we're good friends, I'll give you free legal advice. He held his chin with one hand and said, if you want to talk to a man, you can talk to a psychiatrist or a gigolo. Okay, then let's get to the point. Fong Bujue mumbled and handed Ouyang Ruo a tablet. It's about a game studio called Zombie Blade. Their company's legal department contacted Sirui Group and said that they're after me. He pointed at the screen of the tablet. This is the email that Miss and forwarded to me. The original text of the email is attached. At this point, Brother Ju suddenly remembered something. Oh, right, don't psychiatrists and gigolos charge on time as well? Chapter 971. On November 6th, at 10 a.m., Thriller Paradise, inside Wang Tanji's conference room. Hey, Brother Ju, you're here. Seeing Fong Bujue walk into the conference room, Xiao Tan put down the snacks in his hands and waved to greet him. Why is it only you? Where's Xiao Ling? Fong Bujue realized Xiao Tan was the only one sitting in the room, so he asked. She has an interview this morning, so she should only come online in the afternoon, Xiao Tan replied. Interview? Fong Bujue was confused. With her family background, why would she need to go for an interview? She could just go to her family's company to be a leader. You can't put it that way. Xiao Tan replied. My family has quite a number of companies under my name, but I'm still working for them, right? You have a point. Fong Bujue sighed. Xiao Tan then added, furthermore, she's going for an interview with the government department, and I hear her grandfather is a leader there. Enough. When he heard the words her grandfather, Fong Bujue already knew where Xiao Ling was going for the interview. He immediately used a fast and impatient tone to interrupt Xiao Tan. I already know where she's going to work, so you don't need to tell me anymore. Huh? Xiao Tan was confused. Even I don't know. So how did you know? Go ask your wife yourself. Don't ask me about that. Fong Bujue did not want to tell Xiao Tan about the 9 subjects. Oh, Xiao Tan answered, and then he seemed to remember something. By the way, Brother Xiao Ling and I haven't registered yet. So we can call her wife? What? Fong Bujue interrupted him again and asked in a rhetorical tone, do you dare not marry her? Xiao Tan answered without hesitation. I don't dare. He paused. Of course, this is not a question of whether I dare or not. I'm just waiting for the right time to bring it up. That's enough, stop. Fong Bujue stopped Xiao Tan from continuing. I'm not going to tell you anything about that. This is between the two of you. Then he changed the topic. Let's talk about our opponents for the next round. Xiao Tan continued. That's it. Sister Rain and Antian? Your big sister Rain has gone home to visit her parents. Regarding that editor of mine, Fong Bujue shrugged. Because of what I said during the first match, he is busy. It's about Zombie Blade, isn't it? Xiao Tan asked. Yes, Fong Bujue said. The legal department from Zombie Blade said, as long as I am willing to publicly apologize for the false statements that I made during the match, they will not pursue the matter further. F***CK. So arrogant. Xiao Tan showed an angry expression. They want to pursue the matter further? Is it reasonable for them to use drugs on their own employees? This is not a matter of reason. Fong Bujue used a relaxed tone and replied with a smile. They're not talking about reason with you. They're talking about the law. He paused for half a second. From the perspective of the law, I have publicly spread negative information about Zombie Blade without any evidence, and it has caused quite a bit of damage. Therefore, they can sue me for slandering their reputation and ask me to compensate for their losses. What do you mean by no evidence? Xiao Tan was still not convinced. Their use of drugs. Won't the truth be revealed if the people from the legal department are involved in the investigation? Huh. Brother Bujua laughed drily. Is the government office owned by your family? In a civil lawsuit, who is the one providing the evidence? Do you understand? If the investigation is as easy as you make it out to be, I will sue them every day. I will say whatever comes to my mind and have the civil servants knock on their windows for me. Based on what you said, Xiao Tan said, do you really want to apologize? How is that possible? Feng Bujue's reply was uneven. If you want me to apologize, the premise is that I have really done something wrong. He paused for a second. And I do not have the power to cover up or reverse that mistake. Why don't you just say that you will never apologize? Xiao Tan narrowed his eyes. Who said that? I always say sorry. Okay? Feng Bujue retorted. This sorry that you always say is never an apology. Xiao Tan took the opportunity to mock him. Instead, it is something like, sorry, I am a police officer. No matter how you look at it, it sounds like you were setting up a death flag for the other party. Don't mind the details. Feng Bujue used a classic line to change the topic. In any case, I will not fulfill Zombie Blade's request. As he said that, he touched his chin. Yesterday, I went to Ouyang Rua to ask about the various technical details of this blackmail and how to deal with the aftermath. He told me, in his capacity as a professional and a friend, that I can do it. Huh? Xiao Tan was confused when he heard that. What do you mean by blackmail? Zombie Blade's actions were at most threatening you. They did not ask you for. He was halfway through his sentence when something flashed across his mind. His eyes widened in shock. Wait, what are you talking about? Feng Bujue said weakly. You were the one who stopped halfway. You wanted to slow down a bit. Hey, Xiao Tan gasped. You are the one who wants to blackmail them? Is that so weird? As Feng Bujue spoke, he assumed the posture of a European lyrical poet and recited with deep emotion. I still remember, in the place where dreams died, blackmail was my only entertainment and spiritual food. First of all, you think. School is the place where dreams die. Wang Tanji's lips twitched as he repeated the meaning behind Brother Ju's words word by word. Secondly, you believe that the trauma that you brought to so many people during your childhood was just a side effect of your entertainment activities. Thirdly, under the premise that you might be sued by the other party and lose the case, your first thought was to blackmail the other party. Not a bad summary. Feng Bujue nodded and calmly admitted it. So, is Ouyang Rua your lawyer or criminal consultant? Xiao Tan asked. Of course, he is a lawyer. Brother Ju replied matter-of-factly. If there was no lawyer's duty of confidentiality, the two of us would not have been so reckless. Xiao Tan held his forehead and shook his head. He was too lazy to say anything more. If you both end up in jail one day, remember not to come to me as a witness. Don't worry. If there's a case where the two of us are arrested together, the worst sentence would be life imprisonment. Feng Bujue laughed. You don't have to be a witness for us. Just go get a tattoo. Why would I get a tattoo? Xiao Tan wanted to say something, but stopped. Then, he suddenly realized something and said, Oh, and then help you break out of jail? Bullsh asterisk T. Brother Ju laughed. Okay, let's not talk about this. We went off topic again. He grabbed the snacks that Xiao Tan put on the coffee table and started to eat. It's okay if it's just the two of us. Let me tell you about our opponents in the next round. November 7th, midnight. The second round of the Battle of the Four Worlds began on time. In this round, Hell Frontline, this opponent was Duo. This team was similar to Trash Alliance. It was a team made up of professional players. The captain and vice-captain of the Duo team were also very famous professional players. Their IDs were Purple U and Green U. In terms of skill level, although these two were not bad, compared to gods like Shadow King and Hong, they were still one level lower. However, what people praised the most about Purple U and Green U was their flawless coordination ability. The two of them were twins to begin with, and they were a boy and a girl. The older sister, Purple Tour, was the captain in most games, and the younger brother, Green Tour, was the assistant. After many years of cooperation and some kind of tacit understanding between the twins, they were always successful in the game. When the two of them worked together, their combat power was far greater than the effect of 1+1. In addition to the two siblings and the nominal substitute coach, The other two members of the team were also masters who had been famous in the gaming circle for a long time. Although I don't have the desire to think of names for these two walk-ons, I hope that everyone can understand a team that can make it to the second round of the semifinals won't have weak players, so there's no need to doubt the strength of these two. Back to Underworld Frontline. After the crushing performance in the first round, the four members, Feng Bujue, Wang Tanji, Passing Rain, and Laughing Soul, had become the focus of the competition. The sharpness of these four players was not at all inferior to those professional superstar players. The most valuable thing was, even though they had kept some videos of their S2 matches, each of their performances were unpredictable and their limits were unknown. Therefore, in the second round, even though Underworld Frontline did not go up against a seeded team, they still received a lot of attention. Be it their new fans or the studio members who came to scout, none of them wanted to miss the performance of Underworld Frontline. But, as if to mock these people, Feng Bujue, the most interesting captain in the second round, put himself on the bench. On the other hand, there was a clash between two strong teams in the second round of the semifinals that was about to happen. That was Trash Alliance vs Sengoku Squadron 2. It was unclear whether it was coincidence or fate, but in less than 2 days, Hong Hu really did go up against Feng Chumping in a match. Whether it was Hong Hu teaching his opponent a lesson or Sengoku Team 2 giving him a slap in the face would depend on this match. Trash Alliance, Uncle Trash, level 50, Hong Hu, level 50, Shadow King, level 50, Sleepy Dream, level 50, Teacher Chi, level 50. Please select the game mode that your team will join. Confirmed. Please select the spectator for this match. Trash Alliance's lineup was quite luxurious. The four main players were undeniably top players with 1 level S mastery. Their substitute, Teacher Chi, was similar to the substitutes of most other teams. He was more of a coach and had never personally participated in a match before. Therefore, the spectator that they chose this time was naturally still Teacher Chi. Confirmed. Your team has entered the queue. Waiting for your opponent. Matching complete. Coordinating nerve connection. Generating scenario. Downloading. Please wait a moment. The smoke of war has just been settled, but the blood is still red. The battle rises again, and men wait no longer. The stars gather in the 4 realms, and the battle is over the clouds. Download complete. Welcome to Tournament for the Best S2 Battle of the 4 Realms. A scenario introduction is provided in this mode, and there is a chance of triggering hidden side missions and special world building. Reward for winning the scenario. Advance to the 3rd round of the semifinals. Playing the scenario introduction soon. The match will start after that. After a series of familiar announcements, the introductory cinematic appeared before the player's eyes. It was the sea, a sea of oily green. The sea was not supposed to be this color, but that was what the players saw. Who? The sound of wind and waves came one after another, and it sounded like a suppressed wail. The cause of this was a group of scientists swearing that they had solved the planet's energy crisis. As the narration began, the camera slowly moved forward against the surface of the sea. But they were wrong. The special bacteria that they created did not turn water into oil, but turned it into an energy disaster. The special bacteria turned all the liquids that they came into contact with into an oily and poisonous mixture that was useless to humans. The water supply system was the first to collapse, followed by the rivers and lakes. In the end, even the sea was not spared. At this point, a shoreline suddenly appeared in the cinematic. The people's lives did not improve, and their living space continued to shrink due to the lack of water. Today, humans can only be seen on small islands on the sea. The introductory cinematic ended there, and the 4 players from the Losers Alliance regained their mobility on an orange beach. At the same time, a familiar system announcement appeared in their ears. Main quest triggered. The 4 opened the game menu to look, and the quest tab showed up. Kill the 4 members of Sengoku Team 2. This quest, everyone, even though it might sound a bit impulsive to say this, Ambitionist was the first to speak to his teammates. But I still wish to say, he paused. due to some personal reasons. In this match, I hope that everyone will absolutely follow my arrangements and help me use the layout to take down my opponent. Chapter 972. 2 hours later, inside a single-player scenario on normal difficulty. It sure is hard to find you here. After Fong Bujua stepped into the dark basement, he opened his mouth to say that into the darkness. Hoo-hoo! The next second, a gust of wind blew, and the 2 rows of candles on the 2 sides of the basement lit up on their own. The candlelight lit up the slightly narrow space, and 3 strange shadows were reflected in the candlelight. I've already sent Upside Down and Upside Down to fetch you, but they appear to have lost their way. Sam Montier said. He was the largest of the 3, but he could only sit on the ground in this space. If he stood up, his horns would reach the ceiling. Ha! Fong Bujua is indeed impressive. Even without our people leading the way, you were able to pass through the layers of danger to reach this place. The next to speak was Talion. He looked the same as always, wearing a black robe and a luxurious cape. On his pale face, the pair of unique eyes kept glancing at others with cunning. Long time no see, Fong Bujua. The last to respond to Brother Ju was a giant skull, Snatch Soul. If I remember correctly, when we last met, you borrowed something from me, and you still haven't returned it to me. The demonic pivot is no longer in existence. Even if I wanted to return it to you, I wouldn't be able to. Fong Bujua shrugged. But I'm a man of my word. As the saying goes, if you return what you borrow, you won't find it hard to borrow again. To compensate for your loss, I'll give you something of similar value. As he spoke, he took out an item from his inventory and placed it in front of Soul's Snatcher. This, Snatch Soul took a look. Could this be the legendary F***CK? Can you stop my kind, mushroom? Yes, I came across this by accident a long time ago, but until now I haven't found a chance to use it. Brother Ju paused. I've thought about it. I'll use this to compensate you for the loss of the demonic spiritual pivot. It was mentioned in the previous chapter that Fong Bujua obtained the Damage Shroom from a ukiyo-e-style adventure. It also stated that this was a mushroom that could remove many negative statuses, but there was no specific description of this item. Let's reveal it now. Name, F***CK. I can stay still mushroom. Type, consumable grade? Special effect 1. The god of haiku is protecting me. When the player swallows this mushroom, all negative mental states will be removed. Special effect 2. Add mushroom for you. Permanently change the style of an NPC. Remark, a mysterious mushroom that grows in the northeast of a certain country. I believe that everyone will understand after reading the description of this item. Just like Chuck Norris's razor, this is an item that exceeds the limit. Its quality cannot be defined, probably due to the difference in the value of its 2 special effects. For the players, this mushroom was at most excellent quality, but for the NPCs, it had to be a legendary quality item. Although I also think that don't do unto others what you don't want done unto you. Fong Bujua waved the mushroom in front of Spirit Snatcher. But some things have different values in the eyes of different people. Okay, stop wasting time. Spirit Snatcher was not a simple person. He already knew what Fong Bujua was going to say, so he cut him off. We're all smart people, so there's no need to beat around the bush. He said directly, as long as you give me the mushroom, I'll forget about the demonic spiritual pivot, and I can give you something else in exchange. Then it's a deal, Brother Ju said as he opened his palm. Soul Snatcher immediately used his telekinesis to catch the mushroom and absorbed it into his telekinesis space. 2 seconds later, he said, Aren't you afraid that I'll take it and go back on my word? Ha! Fong Bujua replied in a relaxed manner. Cooperation is built on the foundation of mutual trust. If you're the kind of person who would go back on his word for a small profit, then there's no need for us to continue this negotiation. Humph. Talion chuckled darkly. You're not only clever, but you're also good with words, Spirit Snatcher replied coldly. Whether Phantom Church will cooperate with you or not is still up for debate, but I won't go back on my word over something so small. Then, he took out another item from his telekinetic pocket and controlled it to float before Brother Ju. Fong Buju accepted it and opened the game menu. Item name: Chuck Norris's autobiography. Item type: other quality, legendary special effect. Everything you want to know is here. Can be taken out of the scenario. Yes remark. One of the items from the CN series. It records one of the 100 well-known facts about Chuck Norris. It will be bound to you after picking it up. Chuck Norris was not really writing a book, but those words were self-organized due to fear. When you broke the curse seal on Fu Ling, you found something similar, right? After Spirit Snatcher handed the book to Fong Bujua, he continued, "Then I believe you should know how valuable this kind of item is to visitors from another world." "Oh, you know about Fu Ling as well?" Fong Bujua asked with a fake smile. "Humph." Spirit Snatcher scoffed. "Why are you playing dumb with me?" When he said that, his tone chilled. "With your intelligence, you must have figured out that it was me who caused her to become like that." "Huh. Fine, we'll talk about that later," Fong Bujua said as he placed the book inside his backpack. "Now, let's talk about the finals of this tournament for the best, or in other words, the Twilight of the Gods. Before that," Sam Montier said, "I wanted to ask you something when you enter the basement. At this moment, shouldn't you and your teammates be on one of the planets? Since all the competitions in the tournament for the 4 worlds start at the same time, and they all take place in the main universe of Thriller Paradise, there's a chance for multiple teams to run into each other in the same world. To prevent that from happening, the teams are usually transported to different planets." "Oh, about that," Fong Bujua said. "That competition started 2 hours ago, and our team won it 30 minutes later, so..." He shrugged, and the rest was self-explanatory. Chapter 973. On the other hand, while Fong Bujua and the 3 leaders of the Phantom Demon Church were plotting a conspiracy somewhere in the main universe, the competition between the Trash Alliance and Sengoku Team 2 had yet to end. Even though this competition had been going on for more than 2 hours, the members of these 2 teams had yet to face each other head-on. At this moment, Feng Champing and his team had joined the human camp on the island and received the support of the local technological forces. On the other hand, the 4 members of the Trash Alliance had joined the Groundhog camp under the leadership of Hong Hu. Yes, on this planet, there was a group of approximately 6 feet tall, anthropomorphic groundhogs with a technological level comparable to humans. Furthermore, they were not alien creatures but native creatures that lived in the underground world of this planet. Due to this special bacteria crisis caused by humans, the underground water source was also affected. The groundhog's home suffered irreparable damage. Therefore, they came to the surface and declared war on humans. Perhaps some people would find it strange. Hong Hu and his team looked like humans, so why would the groundhog camp accept them? In fact, this was not a problem because the humans on this planet had not reached a unified opinion. Long before the groundhogs attacked, the human civil war had already broken out. Therefore, many humans chose to join the groundhog camp after the underworld residents killed their way to the surface. In the groundhog camp, there were also some people, rats, who did not agree with their own kind. They would also seek refuge with the human forces that had similar political views to them. Now, the war had been going on for more than 5 years. The people, rats, on both sides had long infiltrated and mixed with each other. It was common for both sides to have soldiers of the enemy race in their team. 2 hours and 40 minutes after the script started, night fell on the island. At this time, in the command room of the Groundhog Army, the Sharp Arrow Unit. Forgive me for being blunt, but as the person in charge of this unit, I can't trust you. A middle-aged groundhog in full high-tech armor was speaking to Hong Hu in front of a 3D simulation map. However, as the commander of this battle, I have to admit, your attack plan is brilliant. From a professional point of view, I can't find any fault with it. You flatter me, General Reaver. Hong Hu pushed up his glasses, and a smug smile appeared on his lips. I just tried my best to provide some basic planning. He paused. As for the fact that you can't trust us, I can completely understand. He paced a few steps and replied in a non-committal tone. After all, the few of us are travelers from another world. In order to achieve our own goals, we have almost no principles or loyalty to speak of. If it was me, I wouldn't trust this group of people. General Reaver said, "It's good that you can understand me." Reaver, Reaver to his words, to turn, Reaver, 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 he said, "You will follow my plan." Reaver was silent for a moment before replying, "I have no reason to doubt or criticize your attack plan itself." He continued, "You came up with this plan in a short amount of time based on the limited information that I provided you. And this plan also filled in some of the holes and flaws in my original plan." He looked at the map next to him thoughtfully. "To be honest, your ability makes me, a battlefield commander who has been through hundreds of battles, feel a sense of defeat." "Huh, you're being too serious." Hong Hu immediately changed the topic. "In any case, as long as you are willing to accept my plan, everything will be fine." As he spoke, he took 2 steps back. "Then, I'll go and meet up with a few of my companions and prepare for the attack." Then, he gave Reaver a military salute unique to the Sharp Arrow unit and exited the command room. At the same time, on the side of the wood and stone army on the island. "Ha! You did a great job, Mr. Fengchen." The commander of the human army was called Ted. He was a bald man with only one eye. He was about 50 years old, and he wore a camouflage military uniform. His hands and neck were exposed, and there were obvious scars from torture. Those mud-eating stars would never have thought that their attack plan would be heard by us. Ha ha. There was a reason why he was laughing so happily. About an hour ago, the reconnaissance player from Sengoku Team 2, Inagawa Masayoshi, had already scouted out the Sharp Arrow unit's base camp. With his excellent stealth and camouflage skills, he managed to sneak into the enemy's camp and found an opportunity to plant a listening device in the enemy's command center. Therefore, the conversation between Hong Hu and General Reaver, as well as the other conversations in the command room and the communication reports, were all heard by the wood and stone army. It's just a small matter. Feng Qinping, on the other hand, was rather calm. He continued in a deep voice, "But, Colonel, you'd better not be careless. The travelers from another world in the enemy's formation are also powerful characters. We have to be careful." "Oh," Ted heard this and asked a more pointed question. "Are they more powerful than you?" "Heh," Feng Qinping chuckled. "Not really. It's just that, Colonel, as you can see, each of us travelers from the other world has some unique abilities. Yes. Colonel Ted's personality was more talkative, and he liked to interrupt. "I think all of you have unique skills." "Yes, you are right." Feng Qinping went along with his words and continued, "I just want to remind you to be careful of the unique skills of the 4 guys on the other side." 30 minutes later, it was already late at night. The sergeants of the Sharp Arrow were ready to go. A night attack that had been planned for a long time was truly an arrow on the bow. The Marmot Army's transportation vehicle was a type of mechanical lizard. It was a mimicry robot that looked like a Komodo lizard. There was a saddle and an operating panel on its back. This type of mechanical mount was very easy to control. It only took the members of the Loser Alliance 5 minutes to learn how to operate it. Unlike the hovering shuttles of the human army, the mechanical lizards of the Marmots could travel quietly and quickly through the mutant plants. The entire ecosystem on this planet had mutated due to the pollution of the water source, without making a lot of noise. "Okay, listen up." General Reaver rode the lizard to the front of the soldiers. He raised the electric spear in his hand and roared, "Soldiers, charge!" Chapter 974. An hour later, at the headquarters of the Wood and Stone Unit. What the hell is going on? Ted was sweating profusely as he paced back and forth in the command center. Why is their battle plan completely different from what we discussed before? As he spoke, he grabbed the collar of a signaler and roared, "Sir!" The signaler was also wronged. "This we don't know." He paused. "The content from the listening device, you hurt yourself. It can't be that we sent the wrong message." Listening device. As soon as he heard these 3 words, Ted seemed to have thought of something. "Yes, it's the listening device." He suddenly showed a furious expression. "Yes, it must be like this. Those bastards lied to me." "What? Travelers from another world?" "They are clearly spies sent by the Arrow. At the same time, in the dense forest. Captain, I don't think this group of NPCs can hold on for much longer. Let's withdraw before the enemy's encirclement tightens. When we return to the headquarters, there may be hope for a comeback. Imagawa Masayoshi, who was hiding behind a bunker and reloading bullets, was anxiously advising Feng Chenping beside him. At this time, the 4 members of Sengoku Team 2 and a team of Wood and Stone Army were trapped in the enemy's firepower net. Although the players' lives were not in danger for the time being, the Wood and Stone Army soldiers were basically defeated. Strange, the situation is not right. Feng Chenping's face was solemn. He had faintly noticed something in his heart, but he could not be sure. Imagawa, when you went to install the listening device, did you encounter any abnormalities? Imagawa was stunned for a moment. What abnormalities? No, the whole infiltration process was very smooth, and I didn't even meet a single member of the Trash Alliance. Feng Chenping frowned and pondered. He suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed abruptly. Could it be? Boom! An explosion interrupted his train of thought. It turned out that the giant lizard unit of the Arrow unit had approached more than 10 meters away and began to attack with short-range rocket launchers. The force field used by the Wood and Stone unit to block beam weapons could not withstand that kind of thing. In the blink of an eye, several shuttles were hit and overturned. Captain, if we don't retreat now, we might not be able to. Seeing this, Hojuwai immediately urged. Yes, Captain. Tokugawa Tadashi also advised. Wasting time here won't do us any good. Although it's not that we can't defeat the mechanized troops on the other side, the number and firepower of the other side can't be underestimated. Plus, they're more familiar with the terrain. If we really want to fight, we will have to pay a certain price. Fine. Although Feng Chenping's doubts had not been dispelled, the current situation did not allow him to consider too much, so he decided. Retreat. The 4 of them did not encounter much obstruction during their retreat, and they easily passed through the enemy's flanking firepower. After all, this was a planet that was known for its technological capabilities, and not a place like the Bunny Planet where fists would appear from time to time. In terms of individual combat ability, the players had an absolute advantage. About 20 minutes later, the 4 members of Sengoku Team 2 returned to the headquarters of the Wood and Stone unit. Just when they thought that they could take a break and make a comeback, they didn't expect that what welcomed them was, don't move. Several beams of strong light shone from the towers all over the base and focused on the 4 members of Sengoku Team 2. Ted's voice also sounded from the loudspeaker. You guys, you still have the guts to come back. Colonel Ted. Feng Chenping was shocked and angry, but on the surface, he suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, What do you mean by this? You're asking me what I mean? From Ted's tone, he could tell that he was laughing out of extreme anger. There must be a limit to treating someone like an idiot. Accompanied by his stern voice, a group of soldiers in light combat armor had already surrounded the 4 players with guns, and several heavy machine guns on high places had also locked onto them with lasers. I'd like to ask you guys. Ted did not wait for the other party to respond and continued to question through the loudspeaker. Where is the unit that went out with you to ambush? This. Feng Chenping hesitated for half a second and replied, The enemy seems to have changed their attack plan, causing us to be counter-ambushed, right? Ted did not intend to let him finish and directly interrupted. Then let me ask you again, since we were ambushed, why did my troops all die, and only you guys came back unscathed? Do you want us to die with your troops? At this time, Imagawa Masayoshi finally could not hold back and snorted coldly as he replied loudly. Even if Feng Chenping wanted to stop his teammates from talking nonsense, it was already too late. Of course, at this point, the result was the same whether Imagawa Masayoshi said this sentence or not. Ha! Ha ha! Ted laughed a few times, then suddenly turned into a curse. You spies. You joined forces with those bastards from Sharp Arrow to put on a show in front of me. Then you tricked my men into walking right into your trap. The more he spoke, the more agitated he became. In the end, he roared, Since you asked now, I'll tell you. I want you to die with my troops. As he roared, he gave the order to attack. "Brothers, kill them for me." The colonel did not hide his warlord-like behavior, and the last few lines were full of déjà vu. But in any case, the soldiers of the Wood and Rock unit were very receptive to this. In addition, the profession of spies was hated by everyone, so the surrounding soldiers did not hesitate to kill the 4 people of Sengoku Team 2. Tut 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 tut. Gunshots, machine guns, cannons. All kinds of sounds announced that countless powerful firepower had launched a total attack on the 4 players in a very short period of time. Even if the players had hundreds of skills, it was not realistic to think that they could escape from such a siege 40 minutes later by the beach. Damn it! Feng Chenping, who was out of breath, sat down on the beach and cursed fiercely. Together with him, there was Magawa Masayoshi, who was slightly injured, and Tokugawa Tadashi, who had lost most of his life savings. As for Kazu Huju, he was unfortunately killed by the encirclement of the NPCs and did not succeed in escaping. "Captain, is that Colonel Ted out of his mind?" Imagawa Masayoshi also said very unhappily. "How can the enemy's temporary change of formation be blamed on us? The content of the eavesdropping device was what he heard himself, and we did not make it up. How can this be said that we colluded with the enemy and let us take the blame?" "Idiot!" Feng Chenping turned back and shouted fiercely. "Don't you understand? We fell into a trap." What? Imagawa Masayoshi was stunned by the captain's shout, but he could not think of when exactly they fell into a trap. "When you went to put the eavesdropping device, I'm afraid it was already discovered." At this time, Tokugawa Tadashi on the side said in a deep voice, "Nonsense." Imagawa Masayoshi could not accept that this was his responsibility, and he said loudly, How could we have discovered it?" At this moment, a voice sounded from afar and joined their conversation. The remaining 3 people of Sengoku Team 2 hurriedly got up and looked at the voice cautiously. Soon, they saw 4 figures riding mechanical lizards coming out of the dense forest and onto the beach. The newcomers were undoubtedly the 4 members of the Trash Alliance, and the one who had interrupted just now. Who else could it be but Ambitionist? "Captain Feng Chenping, we meet again." Hong, who looked at Feng Chenping with a smile and greeted him. "I remember last time you said that you hoped to have the opportunity to experience my wisdom in the competition, and I think your wish has come true." He repeated the other party's words and continued with a smile. "Looks like I'm not just good at talking, am I?" "Humph." Feng Chenping snorted coldly. "Feng Chen has indeed experienced your strategy, but..." He stood up and glared at Hong Hu. "We haven't lost yet." "Ah, that's natural." Hong Hu said, "When I set up this trap, I guessed that Wood and Rock would not be able to kill all of you, and it would be good enough if they could kill 1 or 2 of you." "Don't talk about setting up a trap. What did you do?" Imagawa Masayoshi did not understand the question just now, so he could not keep up with the pace of their conversation. "Huh, I didn't do anything." Hong Hu smiled and raised his hand to point at his teammate next to him. "If you want to talk about the credit, it's mainly him. I only used the summoned creatures to collect some information." The Shadow King, who was pointed at by Hong Hu, calmly continued, "Those schemes were all his. It had nothing to do with me. To put it simply, we've been keeping an eye on your infiltration operation since the moment you left." Hong Hu waited for 2 seconds and said to Imagawa Masayoshi, "This is why your operation was so successful. You didn't even get to meet us, and you successfully planted the listening device." Imagawa Masayoshi heard this and suddenly understood. What I had to do after that was nothing more than rehearsing my lines next to the listening device. Hong Hu continued, "Even if General Reefer didn't want to help, I could have directed and acted it myself with a voice-changing device." He adjusted his glasses. As expected, Wood and Rock's commander believed the information obtained from the listening device and fell into the trap. When things went south, Colonel Ted's first suspects were inevitably the few of you, because you were a group of suspicious people who suddenly appeared out of nowhere. You can't be trusted completely. And the whole plan of the listening device was proposed and carried out by you guys. After considering it all, it's not difficult to come to a conclusion. The four of you are spies sent by Sharp Arrow, and you put on a good show in front of Colonel Ted. Beat them at their own game, sow discord, and kill with a borrowed knife. Feng Chunping stared at Hong Hu. At this moment, the former's attitude returned to normal. Good. You're indeed a wise general. Before he finished speaking, Feng Chunping stretched out his hand and grabbed the air. A white light flashed, and a long staff appeared in his hand. Seeing that their captain was ready for battle, Tokugawa Tadashi and Imagawa Masayoshi also took out their weapons and prepared to fight the four people from the loser alliance. I wonder, other than strategy, how are your skills? Feng Chunping continued. Huh. Hearing this, Uncle Loser laughed. Are you trying to goad Brother Hong, who into a one-on-one fight with you? He shook his head. Don't regret it. Our team strategist is also very good at fighting. Yes. Tired Dream nodded. So I suggest, for now, let's let Hong Hu and Shadow King settle this. TSK, are you looking down on us? Imagawa Masayoshi roared. The four of you can come at us together. We don't need your sympathy. Sympathy? Tired Dream cast a sharp glance at Imagawa Masayoshi and said coldly, This is Imagawa Masayoshi. He had undoubtedly done his homework before the competition, so he knew a thing or two about the enemy team members' appearances, abilities, and other situations. I hope you don't misunderstand. We have no intention of sympathy or looking down on you, and we have no intention of going easy on you. He paused. I'm just making a corresponding suggestion based on the current situation. For the sake of the competition later, we don't need to expose our team's combat power too much here. You're right, but your estimation of the situation is still not accurate enough. At this time, Shadow King was already riding his robotic lizard slowly towards the three people of Sengoku Team 2. Here, I can handle it alone. It was 4 o'clock in the morning, in the game world, in the Sengoku Society's conference room. So we really lost. The one who spoke was Sengoku Shin. He had gray hair and wore yellow light armor. His tone was rather calm. I thought they would at least have a chance to get more information, even though it's an expected result. The process is a bit ugly. Takeda Masayoshi had long white hair, and the armor under his guild cape was pink. His voice was sweet and lively. How about we deduct their bonus for this month? I think there's no need to deduct their bonus. Yusuji Hito had long black hair, blue armor, and white shirt. When he spoke, he gave off an honest feeling. Ever since those guys entered Thriller Paradise, they've been thinking too highly of themselves. This failure should be a good lesson for them. She paused for half a second and looked at the beautiful girl with long red hair at the head of the table. Oda, what do you think? While he was speaking in a serious tone, Oda AI was playing a game on the conference table. What? Can we go offline for breakfast now? Are you an idiot? Takeda Masayoshi scolded the team's #1 fighter. The men of Team 2 have already lost. You should have some sense of danger. Men are unreliable to begin with. Oda AI yawned and replied weakly. The only one I see as an opponent is Phantom Dawn. The rest? It's the same no matter who it is. After Team 1 enters the finals, no one will care about Team 2's loss, right? Chapter 975, November 8th, 8 o'clock in the morning. Feng Bujue finished his morning run and bought some fried dough sticks and soy milk before returning home. You're up. When he walked into the living room, he saw Ruo Yu sitting in front of his computer, looking at something with a serious expression on her face. When Ruo Yu saw Brother Ju, she responded in a hurry and said, I was just looking at the web page. I didn't ask you what you were looking at. Feng Bujue moved a stool to sit next to Ruo Yu and put the breakfast on the computer table. Why do you look so guilty? Who? When Ruo Yu said the first word, her voice was quite loud. However, when she looked into Brother Ju's eyes, she immediately lost her confidence. I'm a thief. You just looking at my drafts. Do you think I don't know that you've been looking at them before? Feng Bujue smiled and said, Actually, you can look at them if you want. Why are you being so sneaky? How do you know that I've looked at them before? Ruoyu asked with some confusion. Actually, I don't know. Feng Bujue shrugged and said, I was just bluffing you. But now I know. Okay. Ruoyu narrowed her eyes and stared at Feng Bujue with a very unpleasant look. However, she did not know what to say. Oh, okay, let's eat breakfast. Feng Bujue seemed to enjoy the process of flirting with Heroine Lee. However, he did not overdo it. I could take a look at the next round of matches while I eat. He naturally changed the topic and quickly took the mouse from Ruoyu's hand and clicked on the Dream Company's official website. Although the internet speed at Brother Ju's house was not bad and the server used by the Dream Company was not bad, it was still a little slow to access the Dream Company's webpage at this time. At this stage of the S2 semifinals, there were only 64 teams left. It could be said that the following matches would be a battle between two strong teams, and there would be plenty to watch. Therefore, at 8 o'clock, there was no doubt that a large number of netizens were paying attention to the newly released third-round matchup list. Oh, there are so many familiar faces in the remaining teams. After waiting for more than 10 seconds, the map on the webpage was refreshed. Feng Bujue glanced at it and said this. Our opponent is... Ruoyu was searching for information about Underworld Frontline on the map. Here. She took a closer look. Is it Zombie Blade 1? Ah. Feng Bujue tore open the Youqiao in his hand and laughed. We sure are fated to meet Zombie Blade. We've met them twice in 3 matches, and they were Team 1 and Team 2. I can't believe you can act so relaxed. Ruoyu took the Youqiao from Brother Ju. Before she shoved it into her mouth, she said, You haven't finished what you did in the first round, right? This is great. In the next 16 hours, Zombie Blade will try everything they can to put pressure on you and Qin. As long as they can affect you even a little bit psychologically, they will have succeeded. But they are destined to fail. Feng Bujue added, because I plan to have Miss and as a substitute in this match. Even if she is infuriated by them, it will not affect the competition. He shrugged with a smile. As for me, you know me. Yes, even if they tell you that you're going to die tomorrow, it won't affect your performance today, right? Ruoyu added. That might not be the case. Feng Bujue took a sip of his soy milk and glanced at Ruoyu. If I know that I'm going to die tomorrow, I probably won't spend my time on the competition. Don't look at me like that. Ruoyu did not even look at Brother Ju and scolded him coldly. Fine. Brother Ju bit his lips and moved his eyes away. He changed the topic. As usual, I'll still be the one to study the enemy's video. He paused. I'll log into the game after breakfast. It's more efficient to watch videos in the game world. Plus, Brother Ju can use his super brain speed in the data world to observe and analyze. With 8x speed, I should be able to finish half of their match before noon. Thank you for your hard work, Ruoyu said. She picked up the plastic cup and drank the soy milk with a straw. She then said, I don't have anything to do today. I'll make lunch. Sure. Feng Bujue rolled his eyes and added, Or, in the future, you'll be the one to cook for us during the competition. Sure, Ruoyu replied. In theory, excluding the match at midnight tomorrow, even if we make it to the finals, there are at most 5 matches left. Other than these 5 meals, you'll be responsible for the rest of the year. How about that? It sounds like you'll be living here until the end of the year. Feng Bujue took advantage of the situation and asked a question that interested him. I'll stay as long as I want, Ruoyu replied coldly. Hey, as the owner, I should be the one saying this. Brother Ju narrowed his eyes. Even though I'm just renting this place. If you say so, then I'll stay here until you buy a house, Ruoyu said. You'll move into the house I buy after I buy a house. Feng Bujue's mouth twitched. That depends on the situation, Ruoyu said. What situation? Feng Bujue asked. If you perform well, when it's time for you to buy a house, maybe I'll consider putting my name on your property certificate. Ruoyu turned her head away. If that's the case, the house won't just be yours. I'll get half of it. Whoa, Feng Bujue's reaction was his eyes widened. He said in a mocking tone, You're saying that you're giving me face by taking half of my property for free? Obviously, Brother Ju, who had been smart all his life, did not catch the hidden meaning behind Ruoyu's words at this crucial moment. I'm full. 2 seconds later, Ruo Yu put down her leftover breakfast and walked into her room. I'm going to change my clothes and go out to buy groceries. Help yourself. Before she could finish her sentence, she had already entered her bedroom and closed the door behind her. Most of the time, you seem very smart, Meow, Arthas, who was a few meters away, said in a helpless tone with its back facing Brother Jew. But sometimes, you're so stupid that it makes me want to beat you up. Huh? Feng Bujua asked. What's wrong with me now? Think about it yourself, Meow. Arthas jumped down from the sofa and walked slowly to the bathroom. Don't ask me. I'm so anxious because of you. The cat had been staying at Brother Jew's house for a long time, so her sarcasm had obviously improved. After she said that, she ran into the bathroom and closed the door behind her. What's wrong with all of them? Feng Bujue shrugged and mumbled to himself as he continued to browse his webpage. 10 p.m. that night, Zombie Blade Studio, CEO's office. A man in a suit and leather shoes, carrying a suitcase, visited this place in the middle of the night. The person waiting for him in the CEO's office was naturally the boss of Zombie Blade. The CEO's name was Jiang Dowd. He was 45 years old and a local from City S. When he was 14, he moved overseas with his parents and graduated from Seoul University. After that, he returned to China to start his own business. He was once selected as one of the top 10 youths in the province. Now, he was a famous entrepreneur and one of the pioneers in the development of the video game industry in China. But who would have thought that this man with such a great resume, great ability, a net worth of more than 100 million, and a patriotic name would have such a special identity that no one knew about? I don't know what the purpose of this meeting is. Mr. Ouyang. Jiang Dowd looked at Ouyang Ruo, who sat across from him, and said with a straight face, I believe my secretary has already told you very clearly. Regarding the dispute between your client and Zombie Blade, you should talk to our company's legal department. Even if you come to me, it won't change anything. Mr. Jiang, I believe you have misunderstood. Although Ouyang Ruo was younger than Jiang Dowd by more than 10 years, her calm demeanor was not inferior to the middle-aged man in front of her. I came here today because my client asked me to bring you something. As he spoke, he picked up the suitcase from the carpet on his right and placed it on the table between him and Jiang Dowd. Seeing that, Jiang Dowd's expression shifted, but he did not show any sign of panic. He knew that this was not a movie, and the man would not come to him with a bomb. Soon, Ouyang Ruo opened the suitcase and pointed the inside of the lid at Jiang Dowd. The latter raised his head to look and saw a monitor inside the lid. And on the monitor was a man's face. What is the meaning of this? As Jiang Dowd asked, he took out a cigar from the cigar box on the table and sniffed it. Who are you? You know very well who I am. Feng Bujue on the screen tilted his head and looked at Jiang Dowd with a half-smile. Mr. Ouyang. Jiang Dowd toyed with the cigar in his hand and glanced at Ouyang Ruo. This is your client, right? Without waiting for Ouyang Ruo to answer, he sneered and said, Is he trying to plead with me through a video call? Ouyang Ruo smiled, but did not say anything. I just want to play a game with you, Feng Bujue said after 2 seconds. You can think of it as a bet. When he heard the word bet, Jiang Dowd's eyes flashed with a strange light, but he still replied calmly, Young man, I'm very busy. I didn't stay in the office in the middle of the night just to play games with you. He said in a tone like an elder lecturing a junior, I don't know what you think you're doing, but let me give you a piece of advice. You should be more down to earth. Not everyone is willing to play those childish and boring games with you. After saying this, Jiang Dowd reached out to close the suitcase. But Mr. Jiang, Feng Bujue smirked and quickly said, As far as I know, in the past few years, you haven't been back to home much, right? Jiang Dowd's hand froze and his eyes changed. For example, tonight, even if you didn't stay at the company, you wouldn't have returned to your so-called home, right? Feng Bujue said with a smile. Even though your wife is still as attractive as ever, it is obvious that you prefer those ladies who are old enough to be your daughters. Feng Bujue? Jiang Dowd glared at the screen with a cold expression. Do you think that your mouth hasn't caused enough trouble? Let me tell you, you better watch your words. If someone like me wants to mess with you, it's like squashing an ant. You have 4 houses in City S. One of them is registered under your name. Currently, your wife and parents-in-law live there together. Feng Bujue ignored Jiang Dao's threat and continued. As for the other 3 houses, they are registered under the names of 3 young women. In the past 6 or 7 years, except for holidays and when your son comes back to visit, you basically don't go back to your home to spend the night. I'm warning you. Jiang Dao ignored Brother Bujue's words. He pointed at the screen and glared at him. Don't think that you're a public figure just because you wrote a third-rate novel. I can make you beg on the streets for food in half a year. Do you believe me? Huh. Feng Bujue's smile widened. He continued to ignore Jiang Dao and said, Of course, in today's world, it's not strange for an entrepreneur like you to sleep with a mistress. In terms of the law, this kind of consensual transaction won't get you sued. At this point, his tone changed. But I heard that. Mr. Jiang, you seem to be considering a career in politics. If you expose that kind of scandal in the process of running for XX representative or XX committee member, it won't be good for you, right? Mr. Ouyang. Jiang Dao stood up and looked at Ouyang Ruo. Did you hear that? What does your client mean by that? Extortion? Huh. Ouyang Ruo chuckled. If what he said just now is considered extortion, then Mr. Zhang's I'll kill you is attempted murder, and I'll make you beg on the streets for food in half a year is a threat. Jiang Dao was rendered speechless by Ouyang Ruo's words. Facing this litigator and the lunatic on the other end of the video, it was obviously impossible for him to gain the upper hand in a negotiation with logic and words. All right, Mr. Jiang, let's not beat around the bush. At this time, Feng Bujue spoke again. First, turn off the cigar-shaped recording device in your hand. As soon as this was said, Jiang Dao was stunned. Unless you want our conversation to be made public, or you really plan to put that thing in your mouth and give it a good whack. Feng Bujue said with a smile. Humph! Jiang Dao scoffed. Even though he had no idea how Brother Zhu managed to see through this recording cigar, since he had already been exposed, he could only snap the cigar in half and toss it away angrily. Very well. Then, let's get to the point. Brother Zhu adjusted his expression and said seriously, I don't have much time. I have to log into the game before 12 o'clock to compete. So, listen up. Gambling Emperor's shop member, Mr. Jiang Dao, is going to have an official bet between you and me. Chapter 976. Gambling Emperor's shop was founded at the end of the Qing dynasty. At first, it was just a small gambling house on the street. Its name was not Gambling Emperor's shop, but Gambling House. It was said that the boss of the gambling house was a monk who had returned to the secular world. No one knew where he learned the superb gambling skills from. After he returned to the secular world, he started to do business that ruined people's lives. Today, the name of the monk boss could not be verified. Anyway, everyone just called him Monk back then. Now they called him Gambling Monk or Ancestor. Maybe it was because he had been a monk for a long time, but the boss of the gambling house did not forget to bring some of the rules of a monk. In the monk's gambling house, everything had to be absolutely fair. If anyone cheated in his place or ganged up with others to cheat money, they would definitely be seen through by the boss and exposed in front of everyone. If it was light, they would be kicked out of the gambling house forever. If it was heavy, they would be beaten half to death and thrown on the street. The mentality of the gamblers was very subtle. Most of them could not afford to lose, but they were unwilling to admit that they could not afford to lose, so they lost even more. And the gambling house gave them a place where they could accept their loss wholeheartedly. The people who came out of the gambling house, even if they lost all their money, could only blame themselves for their bad luck and had nothing to say. For the gamblers, that was enough. It was as if the one who lost was not themselves, but God. Over time, the name Gambling House began to spread. Finally, one day, the name of the gambling house spread to the ears of a local official. This person was also a gambler. The next day, he disguised himself and entered the gambling house. Unfortunately, this Lord Lu's gambling skills and luck were not good. Not long after he entered the gambling house, he lost all his money. Logically speaking, for a well-known corrupt official like him, If he lost, so be it. After all, he had plundered the people's wealth, so he could just leave. However, this Lord Lu's gambling behavior was also very bad. After he lost, he immediately revealed his identity and shouted loudly, saying that the banker had cheated him of his money. So the clerk in the shop called the boss, who was the monk. After listening to what had happened, the monk smiled calmly and proposed to make another bet with Lord Lu. In this round, he used his entire fortune to bet on Lord Lu's words. If the monk lost, he would lose his wealth. If Lord Lu lost, he would only lose one sentence. And that sentence was, I, Lu, am sincerely convinced of my loss today. Official Lu agreed to the bet and quickly lost the bet. However, he didn't fulfill his promise. He just waved his sleeves, snorted coldly, and left the gambling house. How could he have known that this departure would cost him his life? The next night, Lord Lu suddenly died in his own home. His death was tragic, and the cause of his death was unknown. Even though the death of a local official couldn't be considered a small case, the boxers were at their fiercest at that time, and coupled with the corruption in the imperial court, there was no way the imperial court would have the time to investigate this matter. Since the local law enforcement agencies were unable to find anything, this matter was left unsettled. However, although no one investigated further, the rumors about this matter became more and more intense. In less than half a year, the story of gambling monk killed Lu Tan was known by everyone in Jiangzhou and Zhe provinces. Moreover, everyone's version would be exaggerated, and the more they talked about it, the more mysterious it became. The name gambling house also spread along with the story. This caused the business of the gambling house to develop rapidly. Soon, it changed from a small gambling house to a big casino. Not long after, many gambling masters came to challenge the gambling monk, but no one could beat the monk. After these people lost, they were all impressed by the monk's gambling skills and temperament. Some became close friends, and some became disciples. As for the stories of these gambling fights, naturally, without exception, they became legends in the streets. Later on, a fortuitous encounter changed the fate of gambling house from then on. At that time, the bosses of the other two gambling houses had conflict. They wanted to decide who was better by gambling, but they didn't trust the person appointed by the other party, so the gambling couldn't start. In the end, someone said, "Why don't we invite the monk of gambling house to host it for you?" In the end, they really went to invite the monk, and the monk really went. Due to his principle of absolute fairness, the whole gambling process was carried out flawlessly. After the gambling was over, the loser didn't say anything. He just handed over the gambling money and left. In this way, it was the first time that Gambling House hosted a gambling game for others. From then on, there were more and more gambling games that came to Gambling House to do justice. The monk was undoubtedly too busy, so those masters that he knew and recruited also came out to host the gambling games in the name of Gambling House. In 1920, when the monk died of old age, Gambling House was no longer a casino. It became an organization that specialized in hosting gambling games for people and taking a commission from them. The second-generation boss worshipped the gambling monk, who had never lost in his life as the founder, and changed the name of Gambling House to Gambling Emperor House, which meant that the monk was the emperor of gambling. Time passed quickly, and it was the 30s and 40s of the 20th century. There were many concessions in S City, and gangs were prevalent. At this time, Gambling Emperor House was at its peak. The customers that they served were very few commoners. During that time, those who could invite Gambling Emperor House to host the gambling games were at least at the level of the Jianghu big shots, socialites, or important military and political figures. The content of the gambling games was usually a huge amount of wealth or life. Gambling was like this. As one lost more and more chips, the weight of life in his heart would become lighter and lighter. At this time, things like credit became very laughable. For example, if a gang leader with more than 10 brothers gambled with a defenseless commoner, as long as the latter won an amount that the former couldn't accept, what awaited him would be to break the contract and be killed. The existence of Gambling Emperor House was to supervise and prevent this kind of situation from happening. As long as there were people from Gambling Emperor House as witnesses, the loser had to pay the price of his bet, no matter what the price was. If the loser broke the contract, the people from Gambling Emperor House would be responsible for collecting the opponent's chips for the winner. Whether it was money or life, no matter who the loser was or what he lost. Gambling Emperor House had a way to make him pay the price without exception. This was the purpose of Gambling Emperor House that everyone who knew about its existence had to understand. A century later, in the office of a famous entrepreneur in S City, You know about Gambling Emperor House? Zhang Dowd asked in a low voice. He didn't want to play dumb because he knew that the other party wouldn't say those 3 words out of thin air. What Zhang Dowd wanted to know was, how did the kid on the other side of the video know about his relationship with Gambling Emperor House? How much did he know? Of course it's because Feng Bujue smiled and said, I'm also a member of Gambling Emperor House. What did you say? Zhang Dowd couldn't help but look shocked. Is it strange? Feng Bujue asked. You? Zhang Dowd sneered. You? He paused for half a second. Do you know how much a membership of Gambling Emperor House is estimated to cost in the black market? About 30 million yuan. Feng Bujue replied calmly. However, this estimate is useless because they have reached the maximum number of members and no longer sell them to the public. The current members can't sell or transfer their membership privately. He stretched lazily in front of the camera. Of course, you can use your membership as a wager in the presence of the gambling watcher. As long as the gambling watcher approves the bet, there may be a transfer. It seems that you really know the rules of Gambling Emperor House. Zhang Dowd paused and suddenly thought of something. He immediately exclaimed, Wait, did you? That's right. I won my membership. Feng Bujue opened his hands and said, Speaking of which, I feel a bit sorry for the guy whose membership I took away because I haven't exercised the power of a member even once. After saying this, Feng Bujue paused for 2 seconds and said, Oh, right. I can also tell you the other question in your mind. You must be wondering, even if I'm really a member of Gambling Emperor House, members don't necessarily know each other. So how did I find out about your identity? Zhang Dowd didn't say anything. He looked at the screen silently, waiting for his brother Bujue's answer. Actually, that was an unexpected gain. Feng Bujue said, When I was investigating your private life and personal history, I accidentally found out that you were related to a missing person case from 20 years ago. So, I found a few good friends of mine, Baoqing, to retrieve some information from that time and roughly deduce the ins and outs. He tilted his head and pointed at Zhang Dowd through the screen. You're not Zhang Dowd at all. The moment this sentence left his mouth, Zhang Dowd felt like a tank of hot oil had been poured over his head. He jumped up in shock. If I'm not mistaken, Feng Bujue continued, back then, the real Zhang Dowd made a bet with you and lost everything of his. You. What on earth are you? This Zhang Dowd was now completely surrounded by fear, and the immense psychological pressure made him stutter as he spoke. After the bet, Gambling Emperor House disposed of Zhang Dowd's body and arranged a secret plastic surgery for you. A year later, they arranged a car accident to get rid of Zhang Dowd's parents, who were far away in Korea. In this way, you got his identity, education, appearance, inheritance. In short, you got his entire life. Feng Bujue was still talking, and you became a missing person. Am I right? Feng! Enough! This Zhang Dowd in front of him didn't let Feng Bujue say his original name. He quickly shouted. He glared at his brother Bujue, then pointed at Ouyang Ruo. And you better figure out who you're dealing with. This kind of meaningless threat again? What? Are you trying to silence me? Feng Bujue said. With all due respect, I don't think you have the courage or ability to use violence personally. If you want to use other methods, then go ahead. I like to see if you want to fight with me, who will die first, At the end of this sentence, a chilling smile appeared on his face. Zhang Dowd sat back in his chair. His whole body trembled as he stared at the screen. What do you want? I said, I'm just playing a game with you, Feng Bujue said. I've already called the gambling watcher. Once he arrives, we'll start. Dong dong dong. Speaking of the devil, there was a knock on the door of the chairman's office. "Let me do it," Ouyang Ruo said as she stood up from the chair and walked to the door. Jiang Daod wasn't in the mood to care about this. A series of sudden mental blows had messed up his thoughts. Bang! After the person who knocked on the door entered the room, Ouyang Ruo slammed the door shut. This person was a man in a light-colored tang suit. He looked to be about 30 years old. He had short, shiny hair that was combed back. He wore a pair of cloth shoes and no socks. "Hello, Mr. Jiang. We meet again." As soon as he entered the room, he went straight to the desk and greeted Jiang Daod. "How did you?" Jiang Daod wanted to ask the security guard on the first floor how he was allowed to come up here, but before he could finish the sentence, he thought it was unnecessary. "Never mind. Pretend I didn't say anything." He paused. "Hello, Mr. Jiu Qiao." Obviously, this wasn't the first time this gambling watcher, Jiu Qiao, had come to host a game involving Jiang Daod. "I'm so honored," Jiu Qiao said as he looked at the briefcase on the table. He looked at the screen and said, "Mr. Feng, who has never asked for our service, contacted the gambling watcher today. He also clearly said, please choose a gambling watcher who is more familiar with Mr. Jiang." Hearing this, Jiang Daod couldn't help but look at his brother Jiu. The creepy smile on this kid's face was getting scarier and scarier. "I just think it's easier to find a gambling watcher who he knows. I don't want him to suspect that I found a random friend to pretend to be someone from Emperor's study." Feng Bujue replied and then continued. "Okay, Mr. Jiu Qiao, I don't have much time. Since you're here, how about I start talking about the rules?" "Wait," Jiang Daod immediately shouted and interrupted. "You're not here. How are you going to start the game?" What's wrong with that?" Feng Bujue shrugged and smiled. "As long as I'm not here, the rules and the content of the game won't be in my favor." "Why not?" "He's right," Jiu Qiao said. "There's no rule that says both parties have to be face-to-face to start the game. We often encounter remote gambling situations. If there's a loophole in the rules, I won't let the game start." Jiang Daod hesitated for a few seconds and then said, "Okay, let's put the rules aside for now. Tell me, what do you want to bet with me?" Chapter 977. I will use all the secrets I know about you, as well as the evidence that can prove these secrets, to bet. Feng Bujue paused for half a second. "Your current identity." Jiang Daod's expression changed slightly. After a moment of consideration, he asked, "My current identity. What does it mean?" "It means literally," Feng Bujue licked his lips and replied in a non-committal tone. "To put it bluntly, it means Jiang Daod's life that you won back then." Hearing this, Jiang Daod's face visibly twitched. "I don't understand. What's the point of this kind of bet to you? Even if you win my current identity, do you want to be Jiang Daod yourself?" "Of course that's impossible. Why would I want to replace you?" Feng Bujue chuckled and continued. "In terms of age and appearance, it's more likely that you want to replace me. Those women of yours and your social status, I don't care about them. As for money," he paused. "If I want money, I'll just bet with you directly, won't I?" "So," Jiang Daod asked in a low voice, "what is your purpose for proposing this bet?" "For fun." Feng Bujue's answer was straightforward. He replied with a mocking smile, "Don't you think watching a person dance on the edge of despair is very interesting?" Ridiculous. Jiang Daod would probably never be able to guess his brother Ju's thoughts. "If I refuse the bet, what can you do?" "I can let you use your original, real identity to spend the rest of your life in prison." Feng Bujue's tone was rather languid when he replied, but his words were murderous. "If you don't believe me, you can ask Mr. Jiujue whether or not I have this ability." Jiang Daod immediately turned to look at the gambling watcher, Jiu, eagerly waiting for his reply. "Yes, Mr. Feng is completely capable of doing what he said." Jiu remained calm and said to Jiang Daod, "When he contacted us today, he already proved this to us." When Jiang Daod heard this, his heart suddenly stopped. The huge pressure caused the muscles on his face to twist, and some traces of plastic surgery gradually appeared on his face. To put it simply, if you choose not to bet, the result may be worse than losing the bet. Feng Bujue continued, "But if you dare to bet, there is a 50% chance of winning. Brother Ju's words had basically settled the score for Jiang Daod. The latter seemed to have no other choice. I still don't understand. Jiang Daod's imposing manner had already faded, and when he spoke, there was a trace of powerlessness and dejection. I have no enmity with you. Why did you? Sigh. Feng Bujua interrupted him. You can't blame me for this. If not for Zombie Blade threatening me and my editor, this wouldn't have happened. Jiang Daod gritted his teeth and said, the people from the legal department pressured you. Because you slandered us in public, I advise you to flip through the dictionary and see what the word slandering means before you use it. Other than that, there are 3 things that I need to emphasize. Brother Ju did not let the man finish. He raised 3 fingers and counted. First, what I said about Zombie Blade is the truth. Second, I do not like to be threatened. Third, I do not wish for the people around me to be threatened because of me. He paused for half a second. In conclusion, I only said a few words of truth in public, and it caused me and my friends to be threatened and harassed by you. He shook his head. This kind of thing is too unpleasant. Even if it is for the sake of maintaining social order, I have to make you pay for this. Ouyang Ruo, who had not spoken for a long time, sat down on the sofa. When he heard what Brother Ju said, he added, Mr. Jiang, this is really your bad luck. Actually, we just want to play a game of blackmail to make your company bleed and learn a lesson. Who would have thought? During the investigation, our great writer Feng accidentally discovered your secrets. So, he decided to play with you. Don't tell me. There's no room for negotiation. Jiang Daod asked tentatively. How could there be any other way to negotiate? Feng Bujua laughed. You and I both know that even if I cancel the bet now and promise not to expose your identity, you will still not be able to eat or sleep in peace. He looked directly into Jiang Daod's eyes. Only through the bet hosted by Huang Zhai will I lose all the information I know to you. Only then will you be able to truly feel at ease. You, Jiang Daod, thought for 2 seconds. You're right. He gave his answer. When you reveal my secrets, there is no other way to negotiate. When he said this, he calmed down again. It seemed like he had made up his mind. To ensure that the 2 of you will never expose my identity, even if you ask me to hire a hitman, I will take the risk. As Jiang Daod said this, he took out another cigar from the cigar box on the table. This time, it should be the real deal because he quickly cut it and put it in his mouth to smoke. Okay, I accept this bet. Jiang Daod continued. If you win, I will lose the identity of Jiang Daod, and if I win, you have to destroy all the secrets you know about my identity. He raised his eyes to look at Jiu-Titas. Mr. Jiu-Titas, Huang Zhai will guarantee that he will fulfill his promise, right? Huang Zhai, Jiu-Titas replied calmly. Will guarantee that both parties will fulfill their promises. He looked at the screen inside the suitcase. If Mr. Feng loses, we will ensure that he will never be able to use your identity to threaten you again. On the other hand, if you, Mr. Jiang, lose, he looked at Jiang Daod, who was sitting at the other end of the table. We will also be responsible for turning you back into Mr. Feng. When he heard the 3 words Mr. Feng, Jiang Daod's Adam's apple visibly bobbed up and down. His nervousness was obvious. Okay, enough with the nonsense. Now, let me tell you the content of the bet, Feng Bujua said again. Wait, Jiang Daod immediately interrupted. Why should you decide the content of the bet? You are the one who suggested the bet, and you are the one who decides the content. Isn't this too unfair? Faced with this question, Feng Bujua replied calmly, whether it is fair or not is not up to you to decide. How about we ask Mr. Jiu-Titas? Jiu-Titas snorted and looked at Jiang Daod. Mr. Jiang, from the perspective of a gambling supervisor, this is exactly fair. What? What did you say? Jiang Daod started to stare at Jiu-Titas. Jiu-Titas did not care about this. He explained slowly, just as Feng Bujua said earlier, when it comes to whether or not to accept the bet, he has the absolute right to decide. In the end, he can choose not to bet, but Mr. Jiang, you have no choice but to bet. He paused for a second. Let's say This bet is not valid because of a failed negotiation. Then, Mr. Jiang, you will immediately fall into an absolute passive position. Even if you want to hire someone to kill you, I'm afraid it will be too late. Because according to the estimation of Gambling Emperor Pavilion, Mr. Phone can completely restrict your freedom within half an hour. You won't even be able to make a phone call. When Jiang Dao heard this, he was both angry and shocked. He asked with a trembling voice, Mr. Geotitas, I thought you were on my side. I am not on anyone's side. Geotitas interrupted him before he could finish. The gambling supervisor is neutral. Our motto is absolute fairness. Of course, I'm also very clear that other than the patriarch, there's probably no one else who can perfectly achieve these 4 words. But since I'm the gambling supervisor of Gambling Emperor Pavilion, it means that I am very close to this principle. He clasped his hands behind his back and turned around. Mr. Jiang, if you think that I'm being unfair by telling you the truth that is disadvantageous to you, then I can only express my regret. You can reject this bet. I will leave now. No, please wait. Mr. Geotitas. When he heard that, Jiang Dao panicked again. That is not what I meant. Many people were like that. They took everything for granted and thought that they were the center of everything. Because of that, they developed a kind of blind confidence and misconception. But when it came down to it, they realized that there was nothing special about them, and they could not even find a way out. Seeing the change in attitude, Geotitas turned back and continued. Then, let's hear what Mr. Feng has to say about the bet. It is very simple. Feng Bujue on the other end of the video replied. We will bet whether I can appear at Zombie Blade's office in 5 minutes and give this so-called Mr. Jiang Dao a good beating. How about that? After he said that, Jiang Dao involuntarily took a few steps back. He frowned and stared at his brother Ju on the screen. Humph, that is ridiculous. Do you think you can fly over here? Or crawl out from the screen? So, you accept the bet? Feng Bujue asked. Wait. Jiang Dao's eyes were filled with hesitation. First, tell me, where are you right now? I cannot do that. Feng Bujue replied. My location is the key to this bet. That is like my trump card. Why would I reveal it before the bet starts? At that moment, Jiang Dao's brain started to turn. After all, he was someone who had been in the business world for many years. It was impossible for him to not have some intelligence and courage. After about a minute of thought, he said, Okay, we will bet on that. He paused. But before you make your move, you have to give me 10 minutes to prepare. 5 minutes. Feng Bujue gave a price without hesitation. I can't go any longer. Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes it is. Jiang Dao said. Then, Jiu Qiao said, From this second onwards, I announce the bet officially begins. He took out a pocket watch from the pocket of his Tang suit. Mr. Jiang, the timer has started. You have 5 minutes to prepare. After 5 minutes, Mr. Feng can start the operation. Before that, I will be responsible for monitoring his every move in the video. Before he could finish, Jiang Dao had already picked up the phone on the chairman's desk and quickly pressed a button. After the call was connected, he spoke very quickly. Captain Wu, it's me, right? Listen up. I'll give you 3 minutes to gather all the people on duty to the top floor. Half of you will guard the door of the chairman's office and don't let anyone in. The other half will be responsible for patrolling all the rooms, exits, toilets, and ventilation ducts on this floor. As long as you see any unfamiliar faces or people who don't have a company pass, arrest them first. The person on the other end of the phone seemed to be stunned. After a few seconds, he replied. Then, Jiang Dao shouted, Who is joking with you? Do you still want a job or not? If you don't want to work, you can take off your uniform and leave. Pass the phone to the vice captain. After he said this, the other side obviously realized the seriousness of the matter. So he quickly responded and hung up the phone. Ouyang Jian laughed. Mr. Jiang, I have to remind you that this kid has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Maybe your reaction is already within his calculations. Hey, you, I'm listening. Feng Bujue, who was on the other end of the video, grumbled. Who are you on? As a lawyer, I've already done what you asked me to do. I am now just a bystander watching the show. Ouyang Jian laughed. I am just giving Mr. Jiang some advice out of interest. You can't do anything about it, right? Oomph. Then you can do it. Feng Bujue shrugged and smiled, as if he didn't care. Mr. Jiang, Ouyang Jian said, looking at Jiang Daod. Jiang Daod responded with a suspicious look. Haha, don't look at me like that. I don't intend to act here to cooperate with him to mislead you. To be honest, I don't know where Feng Bujue is now. But I can tell you, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, he came to my office with this suitcase and gave me the task of delivering the suitcase. After that, I don't know where he went. Oomph. Do you think I will believe your words? Jiang Daod sneered. I just want to say a few words of my own. Ouyang Jian leaned back on the sofa. If Mr. Jiang doesn't believe me, just pretend you didn't hear it. He licked his lips and said, First of all, based on my understanding of Feng Bujue, with his intelligence, he must have already expected that you would prepare for this matter. If I were him, I would naturally take advantage of this. In the process of Ouyang Jian's narration, everyone could already hear the sound of messy footsteps coming from the corridor. Presumably, the security guards had already arrived. For example, I could sneak into your building early today, Ouyang Jian said again. Prepare a laptop or tablet that could be used for video recording, then find a corner of the utility room or toilet to hide, and wait until nighttime. He held his chin and said thoughtfully, When the bed officially begins, the moment I can take action, I will turn off the camera, take out the security uniform that I prepared beforehand, or take it from the locker room and change into it. Then, I will take advantage of the chaos to sneak into the security line that you have set up. When Jiang Daod heard this, he interrupted in a cold tone. Is that all you want to say? Oh. Ouyang Jian's ability to read people's expressions was very strong. At this moment, he saw a cold expression on Jiang Daod's face. Mr. Jiang, don't you want to take precautions? There's no need. Jiang Daod said, the possibility that you mentioned before I notified the security guards. I already thought of it. Oh, you're pretty good. In the video, Feng Bujue smiled and said, I know very well. You must be able to infer that I will call the security guards to guard this place. But I still have to call the security guards because if I don't do that, there will be more ways for you to get close to this place. As Jiang Daod spoke, he also raised 3 fingers. And if I call security, you should still have 3 ways to get close to me. First, it's what Lawyer Ouyang said just now. Second, what Lawyer Ouyang said is actually to put pressure on me, to make me have an idea. That is, after the video is cut off, I will immediately leave this room and escape like a cicada shell. If I really do that, you'll have the opportunity to take advantage of it. Third, although the possibility is not high, but at this moment, you could also be on a flying plane, ready to jump out of the window at any time, and then use a set of special agent-level equipment to quickly break in through the window. Ha! Feng Bujue laughed out loud. Amazing, really amazing. He couldn't help but applaud for the other party. No wonder you could win the entire life of a tall, rich, and handsome man back then. I seem to have underestimated you. His laughter gradually stopped. Then, can I ask, even if you can avoid the second method, if I use the first or third method to get close to you, what will you do? It doesn't matter which method you use. As Jiang Daod spoke, he stood up and glanced at Jiu Qiao. Mr. Jiu Qiao, how long before Feng Bujue can take action? 15 seconds, Jiu Qiao replied. Okay, Jiang Daod responded as he walked to the wall. I'm sorry, Feng Bujue. From the very beginning, you've missed one thing. As he spoke, he reached into a vase by the wall and pressed a button. 2 seconds later, a 50-centimeter square area on the wall in front of him opened, revealing an operation screen. At this point, there's no harm in telling you. Jiang Daod continued, in my office, there is a hidden compartment. The door is equipped with a dual fingerprint and DNA identification system. Only I can open it. He took a puff of his cigar and leisurely looked back at Brother Jew in the video. As long as I enter this room, even if you come with a military helicopter, it will be useless. Before he finished speaking, he had already reached out 5 fingers and opened the door of the room through the scanner. You lost, Feng Bujue. Jiang Daod left this sentence coolly, then turned and walked into the hidden compartment. However, oh, you're here, just in time. When he walked into the room, there was already someone sitting there waiting for him. Chapter 978. The scene in the hidden room caused Jiang Dao's brain to enter a temporary vacuum. Feng Bujue sat on one of the chairs inside the cubicle, and there was a laptop placed before him. "You how?" Jiang Dao stuttered, but he could not even form a complete sentence. "2 days ago, I snuck into the homes of your mistresses one by one." Feng Bujue stood up from the chair and approached Jiang Dao step by step. "Initially, I just wanted to collect some of your DNA as evidence to expose your identity. Who would have thought? In the process of searching the house, I found something unexpected." As he said those words, Jiang Dao retreated step by step from the room and returned to the chairman's office. Feng Bujue followed behind, and as he walked, he said, "I realize that you have this kind of hidden cubicle in each of your mistress's rooms." He paused. "Ha! Don't look at me with that kind of expression. That is not surprising. I have received professional training, and I am very sensitive to the structure of buildings. Just by looking and walking, I can identify places like these hidden cubicles." As he spoke, Brother Bujue had already walked into the chairman's office. He glanced at Ouyang Ruo and Jiu Tiao separately and raised his hand to greet them. "At the time, I understood." He continued his sentence and said to Jiang Dao, "You are a person who has no sense of security about your life. Even though you have lived as Jiang Dao for 20 years, it is still difficult for you to change the habit of a cunning rabbit with 3 burrows." After Feng Bujue said that, he pulled out the phone on Jiang Dao's desk and said with a smile, "And habits will reveal a lot of information. It was easy for me to speculate that in your office there must be such a secret room for hiding." He smiled and pointed to the entrance of the hidden room. "The result was just as I expected. The fingerprints and DNA needed to open the hidden room were obtained from his mistress's homes, right?" Ouyang Ruo asked thoughtfully. "That's right," Feng Bujue said. "The secret rooms in his mistress' house are also set up in the same way as this one. So, this afternoon, after you left my office, you snuck into this building and hid in that room to wait?" Ouyang Jian asked again. "Yes," Feng Bujue responded and then looked at Jiang Dao. "If you still remember, Mr. Jiang, you should remember that after you drank a cup of coffee sent in by your secretary this afternoon, you suddenly felt discomfort in your abdomen. Then, you went to the toilet and squatted for more than half an hour. You actually drugged my coffee?" Jiang Dao was shocked. "Ha! It's a piece of cake," Feng Bujue replied in a relaxed tone. "I put the laxative in the secretary's office, next door, under the coffee grinder, in the cabinet, in the cupboard, in the secretary's office." He paused for half a second. "If you want to ask, how did I know the approximate time you drank your coffee, whether you added sugar, and how many pieces of sugar? You deduced it when you were investigating his mistress' house." Before Jiang Dao could answer, Ouyang Ruo interrupted. Jiang Dao heard this and suddenly turned to look at Ouyang Ruo. He looked at the latter with a look of surprise and suspicion. "Ha! There's no need to be so surprised, Mr. Jiang." Ouyang Jian laughed. "Since our great writer Feng Bujue has already searched your house thoroughly." He glanced at his brother Ju. "Let's not talk about your habit of drinking coffee. How many dishes you eat in a meal, how to squeeze out ointment when you brush your teeth, how many strands of hair you lose when you wash your hair, and even how many pieces of toilet paper you use when you go to the toilet. He knows everything clearly." Just as Ouyang Ruo said. Half a second later, Feng Bujue quickly took over the conversation and said to Jiang Dao, "That's what happened." He took a few steps forward and tapped the cigar box on the table twice with his finger. "Also, now you should understand how I knew that there was a recording cigar hidden in your cigar box, right? Jiang Dao heard him say this, and then said, "You took advantage of the time when I went to the toilet." "Bingo," Brother Ju snapped his fingers and explained, "According to my estimation, a cautious person like you would definitely have a few tricks up his sleeve. So, after I found the entrance to the hidden compartment, I didn't rush in. Instead, I carefully checked your office, just in case." He looked up at the wall on the other side of the chairman's office. As expected, I found a camera behind the painting over there. Jiang Dao didn't respond. At this point, he wouldn't be surprised if Brother Zhu revealed any more secrets about him. And the footage from that camera naturally wouldn't be sent to the security room. Feng Bujue continued. In fact, I did sneak into the security room to take a look. In this whole building, other than the public areas, all the office areas are equipped with cameras, but your chairman's office is an exception. He chuckled. Huh, so where would the footage from this camera be sent? The answer is obvious. Brother Zhu patted the computer on Jiang Dao's desk. Mr. Jiang, you really are a very insecure person, and this is something I can take advantage of. You also tampered with the footage. Jiang Dao's voice was lifeless when he answered. Of course. Feng Bujue said, since you installed such a camera, it means every time you left this office and returned, you would quickly check the footage to confirm that no one had sneaked in during this period. He tilted his head and smiled. In the afternoon, you left in a hurry because of severe abdominal pain, so you didn't lock the screen in time. This saved me the work of deciphering the password. When I came in, the computer screensaver wasn't turned on, so I could use it as I pleased. So you took a screenshot of the surveillance footage and changed it to a loop until the few seconds before you entered the compartment. Ouyang Yin followed Brother Zhu's train of thought and continued. Yes. Brother Zhu nodded and looked at Jiang Dao. And when Mr. Jiang returned to the office, he must have immediately opened the footage and fast-forwarded it to check it. However, under the premise that no one had entered, the footage was static. Even if he slowed it down and looked at it carefully, he might not be able to find the connection points of the footage. Looking at it like he did, there was no doubt that he wouldn't be able to find any flaws. It looks like Mr. Jiang didn't even dream that. Ouyang Yin smiled. Actually, there was someone 5 or 6 hours ago who had already sneaked into the hidden compartment that he used to deal with emergencies. At this point, everyone fell into a few seconds of silence. After a few seconds, Brother Zhu looked at Jiang Dao and said, All right, Mr. Jiang, who is about to become Mr. Feng again, I've explained everything that needs to be explained. He extended his hand and made a pleased gesture. This bet, do you accept your loss? Lose? Jiang Dao's eyes narrowed, and he snorted coldly. Did I lose? As he spoke, he took a few steps to the side and began to untie his tie. What are you doing? Feng Bujue laughed mockingly as he followed Jiang Dao to the spacious carpet in the room. What do you think? Jiang Dao stretched his neck left and right. Considering that the soundproofing of your chairman's room is as good as the hidden compartment next door, I'm afraid that shouting for help from outside the door won't work. Feng Bujue pretended to analyze the situation, and turning around and running away obviously isn't a good idea either. With the distance between you and me, if you turn around and open the door, I'm afraid that you'll be knocked out before the door even opens. Brother Zhu licked his lips and frowned. Then, you don't have many choices. He looked up and down at Jiang Dao, who was stretching his limbs, and laughed. Ha! Look at how you're unbuttoning your collar and cuffs, and how you're doing some meaningless warm-up exercises with a murderous look on your face. Are you going to fight me? Aren't you going to beat me up? Jiang Dao said as he struck a pose. I like to see who's going to beat who up. Mr. Jiang, I have to remind you. Feng Bujue said, I've done a thorough investigation on you. I know that you're a purple belt in karate, and that you learned it after you obtained your current identity. It was on the basis of knowing about this matter that I proposed the bet. Bluffing is just a waste of your time. Jiang Dao's face was ferocious, and he seemed to be more aggressive. After all, this was a bet that would affect his future. Even if he had to struggle, it was better than waiting for death. Mr. Kujio. Feng Bujue smiled and turned to look at Kujio. How much longer before the 5-minute time limit? Kujio stared at the pocket watch in his hand. As soon as Brother Zhu asked the question, he answered 7 seconds. 6, 5. When he said 7 seconds, Jiang Dao felt that he had already won. What would he do in less than 7 seconds? Even if he were a KGB agent, You wouldn't be able to beat a purple belt in karate in such a short time. Furthermore, Brother Jew said, give him a good beating and not put him to the ground or give him a few kicks and punches. Therefore, no matter how he thought about it, 7 seconds was definitely not enough. However, at this moment, Feng Bujue's body flashed and disappeared from Jiang Dao'd and Ouyang Jin's sight. At this moment, Kujio's eyes changed slightly, but his expression was still cold and calm. He didn't stop counting down. 4, 3. Then Jiang Dao'd's body twisted in a very strange position, and he slowly knelt on the ground. During this process, a black shadow kept flashing around Jiang Dao'd's body, and the latter's body kept making muffled sounds of punches hitting flesh and bones. 2, 1. Time's up. Kujio finished counting down. Feng Bujue's figure reappeared. Jiang Dao'd was lying on the ground with a bloody nose and a swollen face. His body twitched slightly, and the expression on his face. It was as if he had picked up a piece of soap in front of a few strong men an hour ago. That kind of shock, fear, pain, and hopelessness made his face, which had undergone extensive plastic surgery, become extremely distorted. Mr. Feng. From this moment on, Kujio changed the way he addressed Jiang Dao'd. I think I don't need to tell you. You have lost. Kaka. Mr. Feng's mouth made a few syllables, but he couldn't say anything. Even if he could, he didn't know what to say. Kneel and beg for mercy? That was useless. Mr. Feng knew best. In front of gambling Emperor Zhai, no matter who pleaded, no matter what method they used, they couldn't stop them from collecting gambling debts. Even if the winner didn't want the loser to pay, gambling Emperor Zhai wouldn't stop collecting debts. 20 years ago, when the real Jiang Dao'd lost his life, he had also begged for mercy. But even after he knocked his head on the ground, he still couldn't change his fate. It was because of Jiang Dao'd's miserable state before his death that Mr. Feng couldn't live in peace for the past 20 years, because deep in his heart he knew he was still that hooligan Xiao Feng, a professional gambler. The 25-years-old Jiang Dao'd was involved in petty theft and swindling. It was normal for him to enter and leave the detention center. Until one day, he met a young man from Daehan in an underground casino. That night, his life changed. That rich second-generation, Jiang Dao'd, was actually a member of gambling Emperor Zhai. But his gambling skills were not much better than ordinary people. After Xiao Feng won all his money, Jiang Dao'd proposed a separate gambling game under the influence of alcohol and called the gambling supervisor over. So, an opportunity presented itself to Xiao Feng, and he grabbed hold of it. Gambling was what it was all about. When Jiang Dao'd lost his life, he sobered up. He went from shock to anger to fear to sobbing. The twisted, detestable, pathetic, and pitiful side of human nature were vividly portrayed by that dying man. After that night, hooligan Xiao Feng disappeared. Half a year later, he became Jiang Dao'd. In the following 20 years, he used other people's wealth, education, looks, and his own intelligence, as well as some less honorable means, to build a career. He got everything he wanted: money, women, social status, and he even wanted to get involved in politics. But all of this was just a dream that belonged to someone else. When he woke up from his dream and looked back on the 20 years, he felt a sense of relief, because this dream was long and beautiful enough. Even if he had to face death when he woke up, he didn't have any regrets. Are you leaving? After a while, Kujio looked at Feng Bujue and asked, Yes, I still have things to do. Feng Bujue said, Jiang Dao'd's life, I will temporarily deposit it with gambling Emperor Zhai. Is that okay? Okay. Contact us whenever you want to use it. Kujio replied. As for this person, Brother Ju glanced at Mr. Feng on the ground. What are you going to do with him? It's not hard to restore his identity. Kujio replied. As for the details, Mr. Feng, you don't have to worry about it. Huh, I can roughly guess that as well. Brother Ju replied with a smile. Then he turned to Ouyang Jian and said, Why are you still standing there? Do you want to stay for supper? What the? Ouyang Ruo seemed to have not recovered from the scene just now. You really have superpowers? What did you think? Brother Ju asked. Of course, I thought you were just talking nonsense like usual. Ouyang Jian's voice was getting louder and louder, because the more he thought about it, the more he felt that things were getting out of hand. Just now I was thinking, were you going to deliberately mystify things and then take out a pepper spray or a taser? But in the end, you just performed an instant hell kill, huh? Okay, I'll explain it to you on the way back. Feng Bujue smiled sheepishly. It was rare for him to see Ouyang so flustered and annoyed. The two of them walked towards the door as they talked. Just as they were about to leave, Kujio suddenly said, Mr. Feng, before I leave, I want to give you a personal reminder. Oh? Brother Ju turned his head and looked back. Mr. Kujio, what advice do you have for me? People like us. Kujio replied coldly. It's not that we can't attack ordinary people, but before we do, it's best to think carefully. Should we do it, and whether it's worth it? Feng Buja heard this and was silent for a few seconds before he replied seriously. Thank you for your reminder, Mr. Kujio. I will remember it. Chapter 979. Yo, nice to meet you all. When Feng Bujue walked into the meeting room, he appeared relaxed and at ease. No one would have guessed that not long ago, he had participated in a strange bet related to the mysterious organization and caused a famous entrepreneur to disappear from the face of the earth. I saw that you were not back, so I went online first. Ruoyu, who was sitting at the table, said when she saw him. Thank goodness you made it in time. Lady Yin continued. We were just discussing. If you were absent today, could we communicate with the game company through customer service and let us compete as spectators? Ha! Don't worry. Feng Bujue replied with a smile. Even if I don't make it home in time, I will find a way to connect to the game. Speaking of which, Ruoyu said, after lunch, you said that you were going out with Ouyang Ruo, and then you didn't show up until now. She paused and gave her brother, Ju, a meaningful look. The two of you didn't really go to Zombie Blade to blackmail them, did you? Everyone in the meeting room was on her side, so Ruoyu was not afraid to say it out loud. When Xiao Tan, Xiao Ling, and Miss and heard the word blackmail, they were only surprised for a brief moment. Soon, they accepted it and sincerely believed that it was no surprise that Feng Bujue would do something like that. No, we didn't, Feng Bujue said. We just went to Zombie Blade's office to talk to their chairman. And Ruoyu signaled for her brother Ju to continue. I believe that their company will not have the energy to take care of me for a very long time, Feng Bujue replied in a way that sounded both right and wrong. Brother Ju. Xiaotan knew Brother Ju well, so he narrowed his eyes. Then, you didn't kill him or drive him crazy, did you? Huh? Feng Bujue chuckled. What are you talking about? He shrugged and moved his gaze away. Even if he really does die or go mad in the near future, it has nothing to do with me. In other words, Ruoyu continued, it has something to do with him. Ha! Brother Ju smiled, but he did not reveal any specific information. I believe in a few days there will be news about what happened today. In any case, I won't be able to explain it in detail, so you should see it for yourselves. After that, he changed the topic. All right, let's hurry up and form the team. There are only 2 minutes left in real time before we have to enter the queue. At the same time, at Zombie Blade, let me gather my thoughts. Inside the manager's office, the manager of Zombie Blade, Lu, was talking to Captain Wu from the security department across the table. At the time, the chairman suddenly called your number and asked you to gather all the security guards within 3 minutes. Run to the top floor, help him search the entire floor, and guard his office door to prevent anyone from entering. He paused for a second. About 10 minutes later, a lawyer with the surname Ouyang and the novelist by the name of Feng Bujue, each holding a briefcase and a tablet, walked out of the chairman's office. Yes. Captain Wu nodded. And you just let them go? Manager Lu asked. The chairman ordered us to let them go. Captain Wu replied. What order? Manager Lu frowned. Hey, call me again. Captain Wu replied. Half a second later, he added, it was when the two of them walked out of the chairman's office. Oh, Manager Lu was confused and mumbled. Then why didn't he come out from the chairman's office to tell you? It's only a few steps away. That I don't know. Captain Wu shook his head. Okay. Manager Lu nodded. Go on. Captain Wu wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and continued. After that, lawyer Ouyang and the novelist left the top floor. The chairman immediately called me again. He told me to pack up and return to my post. As he tried to recall, he said, then about 10 minutes later, I saw the chairman walk out of his office with a man in a Tang suit. They walked into the elevator. Who was that? Manager Lu interrupted. I don't know. Captain Wu replied awkwardly. Of the 3 people who came out of the chairman's office tonight, other than lawyer Ouyang, who came with an appointment and a pass that we issued, the other 2 have no record of entering the building. Then, this is your negligence? Manager Lu asked in a questioning tone. Well, Captain Wu could not think of an excuse, so he could only reply, I've already sent someone to check the surveillance video. Maybe we can find out how they got in. Okay, there's no need for that. Manager Lu interrupted. At this point, it's meaningless to do that. He frowned and pursed his lips. If something really happened to the chairman this time, the police will be alerted sooner or later. When the time comes, the police will naturally check the video. You just have to cooperate with them. Yes. Captain Wu answered. So what happened next? Manager Lu asked again. You just watched as the chairman was taken away by the man in the Tang suit. Captain Wu replied hesitantly. The chairman. He didn't look like he was taken away. Manager Lu continued. Could it be that he followed the man himself? Yes. Captain Wu nodded. We saw from a surveillance video that the chairman was wearing a pair of sunglasses that covered half of his face. He held the man's shoulder with one hand and followed behind the man. The 2 of them took the elevator down to the lobby on the first floor and walked out of the building. He pursed his lips helplessly. The security in the lobby also recognized the chairman. Because he seemed to be following the man willingly, no one came forward to stop them. Manager Lu fell in a deep thought. After a moment, he said, Anyway, let's put this matter aside for now. After all, the chairman is an adult. Since he wasn't forced to leave, there might be something else going on. Let's not jump to conclusions or be too anxious. Who knows? He might come to the company as usual tomorrow. He looked at Captain Wu and gave him a look. I'll try to contact the chairman again. If I really can't reach him, I'll call his house later and roughly explain the situation. When the time comes, I'll let them decide how to deal with it. When he said this, he seemed to have sorted out his thoughts. In the end, he let out a sigh of relief. Even if we really want to call the police, it's more appropriate to let the chairman's family do it. Don't you think so? Yes. Captain Wu nodded. Manager Lu is right. For Captain Wu, at this moment, it was great to have someone with a clearer mind to calculate the accounts, shirk responsibility, and make a decision. Okay. Manager Lu picked up the teacup on the table and took a sip. You can go back to work. Tonight, I still have a lot of things to do. Okay. Manager Lu, I'll go first. Captain Wu responded and quickly walked out of the general manager's office. After Captain Wu closed the door, Manager Lu's expression suddenly became gloomy. A few seconds later, he took out a very old model phone from his pocket and pressed the speed dial button. Hello? Yes, it's me. Manager Lu said darkly. Yes, I've already arranged everything. I can buy you at least 10 hours of time. Okay, understood. I'll do as you say, Mr. Nine Threads. He paused. By the way, about tonight's competition, I've changed the medicine for Team 1. After the competition starts, the effect of the medicine will disappear. Is that okay? Midnight, the 9th of November at midnight. The third round of 4 worlds, the battle for the top 32, had begun. Feng Bujue, level 50, Wang Tanji, level 50, Rain Like Rain, level 50, Laughing Soul, level 50, Flower on the Rock, level 50. Please select the game mode that your team wishes to join. You have selected tournament for the best S2 4 worlds. Please confirm. Confirmed. Please select the spectator for this battle. Confirmed. Your team has entered the queue, waiting for your opponent to be ready. Matching complete. Coordinating nerve connection. Generating scenario, downloading. Please wait a moment. The smoke of war has just been settled, but the blood is still red. The battle rises again, and the people do not wait. The stars gather in the four worlds, and the battle is over the nine heavens. Download complete. Welcome to Tournament for the Best S2 Four Worlds. This mode provides a scenario introduction, and there is a chance of triggering hidden side quests and special world building. Reward for winning the scenario. Advance to the fourth round of the semifinals. Playing the scenario introduction soon. The game will start after that. After a series of familiar system announcements, the introductory cinematic started to play. A century-old town descends upon us. A 1,000-year-old temple shrouded in blood. This time, the opening speech was concise and went straight to the point. However, the CG screen showed a very harmonious scene. Lotus Moon Town, famous for its beautiful scenery. There is an ancient temple on the mountain to the west of the town called Luha Temple. It is a 1,000-year-old temple. Following the narration, a small town surrounded by mountains and rivers entered the player's eyes. About 100 years ago, a group of refugees came here from afar. The monks of the temple gave them rice porridge and saved their lives. After that, the refugees reclaimed the land at the foot of Luha Temple, widened the river, and built this town. After 100 years, Lotus Moon Town became known as the Holy Land of Buddhism, the land of fish and rice. However, in the 100th year since Lotus Moon Town was built, a rumor about Luha Temple spread like wildfire. At this point, the narration changed, and so did the cinematic. According to legend, there is a Buddhist treasure that is worshipped in the temple. The camera quickly moved and shot the sky above Luha Temple from an aerial view. There are 9 doors and 9 pivots in the temple. There are 81 seals that seal the treasure. The method to unlock the seals is passed down orally by the previous abbot, and it is kept a secret. When he said that, the camera locked onto a pagoda inside the temple. One year, a group of bandits had their eyes on this treasure, and one night, they sneaked into the temple. The narration ended there, but the cinematic was not done yet. Then, the screen went black. In the next second, one after another, ghastly pale faces, pairs of empty dead eyes, and bodies covered in blood flashed across the screen at high speed. Countless mournful wails and maniacal laughter echoed in the player's ears. Just as this horrifying sound and picture rushed at them, the scenario started. When Fong Bujue regained the ability to move, he could clearly feel it, cold. It was a chill that penetrated his bones, a chill that came from inside out. Even though the temperature around him was not that low, he could still spit out white fog from his mouth. The beautiful land of fish and rice has become like this. Brother Ju scanned the surroundings at the first moment. He saw dilapidated houses, broken stone bridges, muddy roads, withered plants, and of course, the most noteworthy thing was blood. Be it the walls, the roads, the muddy ground, the dead tree trunks, or the rocks by the roadside, there were blood stains everywhere. The blood was dark red in color, and most of them had irregular shapes. Some of them were in the shape of handprints. Other than the heavy stench of blood, there was also a horrible stench. Main quest triggered. Killed 4 members of Zombie Blade Team 1. The system prompt quickly sounded, announcing the start of the match. However, Brother Ju looked around, and there was no one around him. It looked like from the start, this scenario had separated the players into different parts of the town, and this was most likely a ghost town. Let me take a look first. Fong Bujue grumbled once he opened his mouth. As he said that, he squatted down to wipe away the bloodstains on the ground. He brought his finger up to his nose to take a closer look. Just as the audience thought that Brother Ju was going to put his finger into his mouth to lick it, he shook his hand and stood up again. Then, Brother Ju thought to himself, what kind of situation is this? He looked around. Hundreds of people with blood coagulation disorder are fighting here. The look in his eyes changed slightly, and he said in a low voice, I'm already in a strange enchantment. 2 seconds later, he tilted his head non-committally and returned to his usual nonchalant look. If it's the latter, then I have to be careful in this environment where blood can't coagulate. A few small wounds could be fatal. Two. Just as Brother Jew said that, suddenly a series of gunshots came from behind him. Chapter 980. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. Brother Jew stretched his body and adjusted his posture with a standard sparrowhawk flip so that his body was facing the direction of the gunshots. At that moment, a black light flashed in his eyes. Countless precise calculations were completed in an instant. Then, with the fastest speed and the most suitable range in theory, his body made an extremely strange movement and dodged the bullets that were flying towards him. There were a total of 12 shots, and each of them was a special type of ammunition. Judging from the accuracy and power, it should be a heavy weapon, but the firing speed and ammunition capacity means that this gun must have been magically modified. In just 2 seconds, these thoughts flashed through Fong Bujue's mind. After he dodged the bullets, he did not forget to throw a Rangkyaka kick towards the trajectory of the bullets. But he never would have thought that his kick would only cause a gust of wind. And this gust of wind only flew for less than 10 meters before it weakened and dissipated. Obviously, this was not Rangkyaku, and its power might not even be as strong as Sentry Kick. What's going on? Fong Bujue quickly glanced at the game menu, but he did not notice any abnormalities in the skill bar. Tut. Before he could get an answer to his doubts, a second wave of gunshots came from afar. The effect of Rangkyaku has been greatly weakened. Why is that? Brother Ju used all kinds of incredible extreme moves to dodge the bullets while he calmly thought. First of all, I am sure that I did not get hit by any moves that limit the power of the skill. This can be confirmed by the data perspective. Secondly, this is not caused by the system limitation, because if the system wanted to limit the power of the player, there would be a voice notification. So, the most likely conclusion is, as he thought of this, he suddenly turned around, stomped on the ground, and dashed toward the house on the street. The timing of his dash was perfect. At that moment, the gunman who ambushed him from afar had just finished the second round of 12 shots and was reloading. Of course, this was not a coincidence. It was within his calculations. While Brother Jew was thinking about the aforementioned matter, he did not forget to multitask to calculate the number of shots fired by the gunman. Although it was only a few seconds since the first gunshot, Fong Bujue had already grasped about 70 to 80% of the gunman's weapon based on his hearing and mental calculation. Unless the gunman had hidden some kind of trap in his attack from the beginning, for example, intentionally slowed down, preserve ammunition capacity, deliberately slow reloading. Otherwise, it was impossible for the gunmen of the eyes of the eyes. If my speculation is correct, the decrease in the power of the skill is most likely due to the barrier around this town. Fong Bujue leaped into the air, and with one hand on the wall, he flipped into the courtyard of one of the houses. His mind kept analyzing the situation. So far, I have only used one Rangkyaku, and this skill is a fighting mastery, level C, and half-energy attack. In other words, this barrier will affect skills that are at least below level C, fighting type, and external attack. Thinking of this, he tried to instantaneously activate Body Enhancement spell, modified, and used Jeppo horizontally. Then he steadied himself. Sorcery specialization, self-buff type, continuous skills, displacement skills, they have all been greatly weakened. Based on the experience of using the two skills earlier, he compared them with the feeling he had when he normally used them. He quickly constructed a filter in his mind and filled in this series of adaptations. Sigh. This kind of statistical work sure is troublesome. He grumbled in a low voice. Then he knelt down on one knee and used telepathic finger to poke at the mud under his feet. Regarding this action of his, at the time, none of the live stream viewers could understand it. But after that, when someone watched the video of the match, they understood it and shared it on the forum, and so everyone understood. To put it simply, Fong Bujue was conducting an experiment. He used a very short amount of time and a very low cost, skills that cost less and did not have a cooldown, to test the specific effect of the enchantment around him. This at first glance, it did not seem like a big deal, but if one thought about it, a person who was ambushed in less than a minute into the scenario, and he managed to do it while he was running away. What kind of insane mental state and quick thinking would it take to accomplish this? Basically, I can confirm that most of the active skills are suppressed inside this enchantment. After poking at the ground, Brother Bujue pulled his hand back and thought to himself, if I make good use of this might be a good opportunity. With that in mind, he took out Kismet from his inventory and picked up a random rock from the ground. I was ambushed not long after the introductory cinematic ended. This can only mean two things. One, I was unlucky. The scenario just started, and I already appeared in the line of sight of a member of Zombie Blade's first team. Two, the person who shot me probably did not notice the enchantment because he decided to ambush me at the first moment. Fong Bujue thought to himself as he jumped back onto the roof of the house. As expected, as soon as he stepped on the roof tiles, the continuous gunshots rang out again. And, based on the sound of the gunshots, the shooter was much closer than before. There is only one person in Zombie Blade's first team who is able to discover me in this dark and windy environment and immediately launch a long-distance attack. There is only one person in Zombie Blade's first team. Fong Bujue somersaulted on the slanted roof and dodged the bullets like he was juggling. His mind did not stop moving. Based on the information revealed in the match until the last semi-final, the guy called Doomsday Assault definitely hasn't reached level S in his marksmanship mastery, but his sleuthing mastery has already reached level S. Relying on a legendary gun, he is indeed quite difficult to deal with at a mid-distance. Thankfully, when he attacked earlier, the distance between us was still quite far, and long-distance sniping is not his forte. Furthermore, he encountered someone like me who has zero time difference calculation, so it is only natural that he missed even one shot. While Fong Bujue was thinking about this, Doomsday Assault had already finished his third magazine. This time, the latter did not reload but switched to a new gun. This was because the distance between him and his brother Ju had shrunk from the initial 300 meters to less than 100 meters. This distance was already within the shooting range of Doomsday Assault's legendary weapon. Name: Stolen Critical Hit Shotgun. Item type: Weapon quality. Legendary offense points. Element: None special effect. This weapon's offense points will increase with the player's level. Increases life points by 14% and critical hit chance by 32%. The gun will automatically generate lead bullets, so there is no need to manually reload. The highest firing rate of this gun is one shot every 2.6 seconds. Equip requirement: Possess the inventory, bound after picking up. Remark: in the world of Azeroth, there's a place called the Molten Core. One day, a group of greedy adventurers entered the place. As usual, they went to rob the monsters of their riches and equipment. It was also on that day that a holy knight stole a critical shot shotgun that was supposed to be given to a hunter. From then on, a legend began. From the item description, this weapon did not seem to be as eye-catching as other legendary equipment, but the actual effect of this thing was very scary. Taking the equip requirement, for example, this gun essentially had no equip requirement. No matter how one looked at it, the phrase "possess the inventory" was some kind of joke from the game designer. To put it bluntly, this was a weapon that anyone could equip, and it could be used from level 1 to max level. The 14% increase in life points and 32% increase in critical hit chance were both very good special effects. In a game like Thriller Paradise, where the player's attributes were blurred, this kind of passive equipment was very rare. The reason was because this kind of buff would give the player a very obvious advantage. In actual combat, as long as this stolen shotgun hit the torso, it could basically insta-kill a player of the same level. Even if it only hit the limbs, it could cause the player to lose more than 50% of their life points. This was the so-called hard damage. You either had to use your legendary armor to fight against it, or you had to pray that you wouldn't get shot. Otherwise, a shot to the knee could kill you or turn your combat power into the level of a city guard in an RPG game. Yes, that's more like it. By then, Fong Bujue had used his sight to confirm the location of Doomsday Assault, and he could clearly see that the enemy had changed his weapon. Continue to maintain the shooting frequency and the rhythm. Don't give me any breathing room. There was a reason why Brother Jew would reappear in the enemy's field of vision. He purposely left an opening so that the enemy would continue to use the gun to attack. That way, Doomsday Assault would be able to ignore the fact that his skill had been weakened. At that moment, Doomsday Assault, who was several meters away, was still unaware of the barrier, just as Brother Jew expected. Coincidentally, 2 minutes ago, when Doomsday Assault entered the scenario, he was lucky enough to be assigned to a higher location. Once he gained the ability to move, he looked around. Using the sight of his grade S sleuthing mastery and the dim moonlight in the sky, he spotted a shadow about 300 meters away from him. Then, without a word, Doomsday Assault took out his gun that had the longest shooting range. Through the scope, he looked. What the F***CK? Fong Bujue. At that moment, his heart was filled with excitement, because he knew this was the perfect opportunity for an ambush. When a player first entered the scenario, they would be thinking about the cinematic that they had just seen or considering what to do next. At that moment, they would not be able to react to a sudden ambush. Therefore, Doomsday Assault fired without hesitation. But he did not expect Fong Bujue, this weirdo, to be able to evade in that kind of situation, and he did it so cleanly that his clothes were not even scratched open. However, since the attack had started, Doomsday Assault had to continue. This could be said to be the inherent thinking and common sense of shooting job players. Once they opened fire, they had to attack until the enemy was dead. If the enemy escaped from their sight, then their position would be exposed, and they would be in an extremely passive position. Therefore, things had developed into this situation. In this battle of high tempo that lasted less than 2 minutes, Doomsday Assault did not have the chance to activate any active skills. At least, he did not use them when he was not confident that he would be able to hit the target. Doomsday Assault, is it? Not bad. Seeing that the enemy was less than 70 meters away, Fong Bujue yelled, "Taste my mega meteor." Then, he pulled open the slingshot and fired the rock that he was holding. The term mega meteor was obviously made up by Brother Jew, but the special effect of Tianxian did not disappoint him. A small rock, after being shot out by the legendary slingshot, slowly turned into a shining orange bullet in midair. Its size also increased by several times, and it did look like a meteor fragment. Humph! Child's play. Doomsday Assault scoffed and raised his gun to fire. His marksmanship mastery was already level A, so shooting at a moving target that was not that fast was not a problem. After the gunshot, Brother Jew's mega meteor exploded in midair and disappeared. Fong Bujue. Marksmanship is indeed your weakness. After Doomsday Assault nullified Brother Jew's attack, he replied proudly, "A half-assed long-range skill like yours is not even as powerful as a normal shot from me." He took more than 6 seconds to say that. When he finished, there's only 30 meters between him and Brother Jew, and he had already raised his gun and locked on a Brother Jew, who was standing on a roof. "Huh!" Then Doomsday Assault opened fire confidently. The sound of the explosive shotgun sounded relatively crisp, like the commonly known shotgun, but its power was not ambiguous. It was more than enough to be compared to a cannon. Following the gunshot, a lead bullet flew at high speed toward Fong Bujue's body, and Brother Jew knew that it was time to move. The next second, Fong Bujue screamed in pain. He did an exaggerated twist of 720 degrees in the air and fell from the roof. His acting was so exaggerated that even the audience could tell that it was fake. Doomsday Assault even saw through it easily. Brother Jew was not shot at all. He had just brushed past Brother Jew and purposely faked his fall. TSK. This B** starred must be up to something again. At that moment, some unpleasant memories appeared in Doomsday Assault's mind. Perhaps when I jumped into the courtyard, There were 2 grenades waiting for me at the landing spot, but he thought about it from another perspective. But there's no reason for me not to enter the courtyard. Is it because my opponent is Fong Bujue that I don't even dare to jump over a wall? Chapter 981. In the blink of an eye, it was midsummer again. It was about time for August's announcement. Originally, I had written a very emotional opening for this preview. Among them, he quoted the classics and expressed his feelings. Taking advantage of his recent birthday, he sighed about his 27 years of life. Through the side description, he highlighted his image as a good man with dreams and responsibilities in real life. But later, I deleted the entire paragraph, and after I deleted it, I summarized the content and shared it with everyone. It piqued everyone's curiosity, but I didn't release any specific content, thus creating an effect of digging a hole but not filling it up. To use Craig's words, this feeling is really so happy, all right, everyone, please calm down. Don't get heaty on such a hot day. Next, let's talk about the update. Everyone knows that unless I announce that I want to achieve full attendance, I will update however I want. Even if I stop updating, I won't give any notice. Here, I want to reiterate that this situation will continue, laughing, considering that everyone might still be immersed in the atmosphere of last month's full attendance. I happily brought it up again. I'm sure everyone can feel it now. I'm really happy in front of the screen. Then, as usual, the last part would be the announcement. Hell Frontline is currently fighting in the 3rd round of the S2 semifinals, which is the round of 64 to 32. Even without counting, I know that including this round, there are a total of 5 more matches until the finals. Because the plan was to finish S2 in October, the first 4 matches should be finished by mid-September. Therefore, the 4 matches before the finals would definitely be detailed and brief. Not every match would be written for a long time. In addition, the matches of some other teams would also be interspersed. Starting from the end of September, the plot will enter the final stage of S2. In October, I'm considering using my full work schedule to finish the S2 plot. After that, it would be the last big chapter of Thriller Paradise. When S3 started, the whole book would enter its final chapter. I seem to have gone a little too far. It's better to give a preview of what will happen in August. Due to the skill limitation setting in this match, the description of the battle would be more focused on the psychological aspect. The background of the scenario should be a more traditional Eastern supernatural story. When the full story was revealed, the scenario would basically come to an end. Next, there will be 2 matches between other teams. Jean Fuguwei and Goddess Su, who have not been seen in a long time, will make an appearance. The next match will return a Hell Frontline's match, a real battle between 2 strong teams. Alright, that's all for now. August has just begun, so please look forward to it. Chapter 982. For some reason, Doomsday Assault felt a surge of blood in his chest. Without any hesitation, he leaped onto the wall of the house. At that moment, he did not know that the drug that he had injected himself with before he logged into the game had started to lose its effect. When the fear and emotions that were suppressed started to return, the person involved would need some time to experience the contrast, and it was at this point that he made a rash decision under the influence of his emotions. Can your acting be any more fake? When Doomsday Assault jumped over the wall, he did not forget to yell, "If you want to play dead, at least make it look more real. At least let the bullet graze you. You can play dead after you bleed a little." When he said that, Brother Jew had already entered Doomsday Assault's line of sight. Before his feet touched the ground, Doomsday Assault aimed his gun and prepared to shoot. On the other side, Fong Bujue was already prepared. Before he finished his fake action, he had already taken out Move Like Thunder from his inventory and prepared to react according to the enemy's next move. In the end, Doomsday Assault chose to chase him into the courtyard and continue to fire. From Brother Jew's perspective, this was a good development. Chi. The bullet was fast, but Fong Bujue was faster. Even though the skill was restricted, the effect of the item was not. Using the special effect of Thunder Pearl, Fong Bujue successfully arrived before Doomsday Assault before he could regain his footing. Time to send you to hell. Brother Jew took out the cleaver and was about to swing it down. But humph! Doomsday Assault did not show any panic. He only scoffed and put on an expression that said, "I knew this would happen." Naturally, there was a reason for his calmness 2 seconds ago. When Doomsday Assault leaped from the other side of the wall, he predicted that Brother Jew would use a similar tactic to ambush him. Therefore, he had activated a skill that could be called a godly sleuthing skill. Item name: My Skateboard Shoe Skill Card Attribute. Active, permanent skill type. Investigation, effect. After activation, the next melee damage you receive will be reduced by 90% and all effects of the next attack will not be triggered. The moment the attack ends, you will automatically move to the attacker's back and receive double attack speed buff for 4 seconds. Cooldown, 30 minutes, 5 seconds after activation. If you do not receive damage within 5 seconds, the skill will enter cooldown and consume energy. Consumption, 1,200 stamina points. Prerequisite: Sleuthing S, Fighting Note. Under the moonlight, I see my own shadow. Sometimes it's far, sometimes it's close. I feel a force driving my footsteps. With the skateboard shoes, you won't be afraid, even if it's dark. 1 step, 2 steps, 2 steps. Every step is like the claws of a devil. Rub, 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 rub. Doomsday Assault was a member of Zombie Blade Team 1. Compared to the marksman from Team 2, Shui Shi Chong Assault, there was no doubt that he was better. Using their masteries as a comparison, even though Shui Shi Chong Assault had level S marksmanship, his other masteries were weaker. Doomsday Assault was different. Even though his marksmanship mastery was only level A, normal non-professional players could train 1 or 2 main masteries to level when they maxed out. He had level S sleuthing mastery with him. Speaking of this detection type of skill, in the early stages of the game, it wasn't that outstanding, but in the middle and late stages, this specialization could provide survival, stealth, burst, and other advantages. These were all tactical abilities that could often have the effect of reversing the battle situation. At that moment, when Feng Bujue's blade of mandatory armor break came, Doomsday Assault knew that his skill was about to be triggered. It was a skill that would not deal damage directly, but would automatically counterattack if the user was attacked within a certain period of time. Then, Doomsday Assault only needed to take the hit that did not hurt him, due to the 90% damage reduction, and wait for the skill effect to send him behind Brother Jew. Then he could use his enhanced attack speed, 200% attack speed, to blow up the back of Brother Jew's head in 1 shot. Theoretically speaking, that should be the case. The problem was, Feng Buju knew about Doomsday Assault's My Hover Shoes. Be it from the data that he observed or the video of the match, he knew that Doomsday Assault had this skill. With Brother Jew's cunning, how could he let the man get what he wanted? Humph! Feng Buju. When the cleaver was aimed at Doomsday Assault's neck, he did not think it was that big of a deal. Based on his experience, that kind of 90% damage reduction, that kind of melee attack that did not have any special effects, at most, felt like a light tap on the neck. He had been hit by a machete before, much less a cleaver. So far, you have not been killed in an official match, right? Today, I will end your undefeated record. Doomsday Assault chuckled coldly, and internally, he was celebrating his achievement. He was waiting for the slight pain on his neck to subside, and then he would teleport away. But that moment would never come. Pooh! Hiss! Hiss! The next second, the blunt blade sank into his flesh, and then there was the sound of blood spraying. After being hit, half of Doomsday Assault's neck was sliced open, and his head could only dangle from his neck. His vocal cords and trachea were seriously damaged, and his eyes were bulging from their sockets. Since Doomsday Assault was hit before his feet touched the ground, the force of the cleaver pushed him back several inches, and his body slammed into the wall before he fell to the ground. This development is different from what you expected, isn't it? Feng Bujua looked down at his dying opponent with a condescending gaze and said with a smile, "I believe. Even now, you still haven't noticed that all your active skills have been weakened, right?" When he said that, Doomsday Assault wanted to reach into his inventory to grab something, but Feng Bujue very mercilessly stepped forward to kick his hand away. Based on my observation, in this scenario, the actual effect of the skills is probably less than 1/10 of their original effect. In other words, the duration of your movement skill has already ended. As Feng Bujue said that, he stomped on Doomsday Assault's other arm and snapped it. Even if it hasn't ended, the weakened skill might not have been able to survive this attack of mine. At this point, Doomsday Assault was in despair, and he realized at that moment he was experiencing pain and fear that he had not experienced for a long time. Also, the reason I didn't let your bullet graze me was not because I didn't want to or couldn't act more realistic, but Feng Bujue moved his foot away from his opponent's arm and continued. In this scenario, bleeding is a very dangerous thing, and it has to be avoided as much as possible. Just as he finished, suddenly, there was a strange rustling sound coming from the surrounding darkness. Look! When Brother Ju heard the creepy voice, a smile appeared on his face. Your blood has attracted some unclean things. Chapter 983. Just as Brother Ju said that, Doomsday Assault morphed into white light and left the scenario. However, even though the man was dead, the blood that leaked out from his body when he was struggling on the ground was still there. The things that approached from the darkness were coming for this blood. Not long after that, the rustling sound slowly turned into a clear groan. Along with those voices, there were also many skinny, hunchbacked, and strange figures that were approaching them. Ghosts, right? Feng Bujue stood where he was calmly. He looked at the translucent human shadows coldly and mumbled to himself. From their attire and the number of them, they should be the citizens of Lotus Moon Town. As Brother Ju spoke, the ghosts of the townsfolk had already passed through the wall and surrounded him from all sides. If I'm not mistaken, they're attracted by the smell of fresh blood. Feng Bujue mumbled to himself as he moved quickly. Let's see what they will do. Then, with a powerful kick, he leaped over the heads of the ghosts and flew up the wall. Some of the ghosts that were closer to Brother Ju reacted when he flew over their heads, but after he flew past them, they only called out a few times but did not follow him. Moments later, all the ghosts gathered around the pool of blood on the ground. They knelt down like animals and started to crazily lick the pool of blood on the ground. However, Brother Ju soon realized that the tongues of these ghosts could not touch physical objects, be it the soil on the ground or the blood that was slowly seeping into the ground. They could not lick them. Furthermore, the ghosts would not touch each other. Most of the ghosts that knelt around the pool of blood had crossed over each other's bodies, overlapping each other like projections. That is strange, Feng Bujue said darkly. Since these monsters are unable to touch physical objects around them and are unable to interfere with their own kind, how do they manage to stand on the surface of the ground? Just as he was thinking, something changed before his eyes. The pool of blood left behind by Doomsday Assault slowly turned dark red under the licking of the ghosts, and it started to give off a horrible stench. Although the puddle of liquid wasn't physically touched by the ghosts, this change undoubtedly happened after the ghosts got close to it. So that's how it is. If the monsters stay close to the body, the blood will rot like this. Brother Ju, who had witnessed the whole process with his own eyes, started to think. Open wounds, the smell of blood, attracting the monsters nearby, the mutation of the blood in the body. A series of keywords flashed before his eyes, twisting into a chain of reasoning. In other words, in this competition, once the body is injured and bleeding, it has to be cleaned up thoroughly, or else the ghost will come after you. He looked down at the group of evil spirits at his feet. Although the speed of these monsters is about the same as an old man taking a stroll, they can ignore obstacles and even collide with each other, moving in a straight line towards the target. It's easier to deal with them in an open space, but if you're chased by them in a narrow or dark indoor environment, that's not good. Just as Brother Ju was analyzing the situation, the blood on the ground had completely turned dark red. At the same time, The ghosts seemed to have lost interest in the puddle of liquid. A few seconds later, the ghosts all raised their heads and looked at Brother Jew on the wall. What are they doing? Faced with this chilling scene, Fong Bujua's expression didn't change. He mumbled, "Could it be that you—" What he meant by "could it be" happened in the next second. The ghosts raised their arms in a twisted motion and floated up one after another. Very good. Brother Jew said that because the situation before him explained the question that he had about how the ghosts were standing on the ground earlier. So, you're just floating on the ground earlier. Fong Bujua mumbled to himself as he put the bloody cleaver and the lightning pearl back into his inventory. Then let me take a look. Do you have any reaction to living things that have no wounds on your body? Obviously, Brother Jew was experimenting again. Under the dim moonlight, in the bloody courtyard, a large group of ghosts made creepy groans as they slowly surrounded you. This kind of scene was like a scene straight out of a horror movie, and it caused the hair on many of the live stream viewers to stand on end. But Fong Bujua just stared at them with his dead fish eyes. He tried to test the limits of this scenario. Air. After Brother Jew put away the cleaver, the ghost did not stop moving immediately, and the groans continued. But after a few seconds, when the smell of blood in the air dissipated, the speed of the ghosts slowed down significantly. Other than that, their groans that were filled with hunger also stopped. After another few seconds, the movement of the ghosts stopped completely. They seemed to have lost their target, and they just spun around on the spot. About 30 seconds later, these monsters fell back to the ground at the same time, or rather, they floated to the same height as the ground, and then they started to move into the shadows where the moonlight could not reach. Fong Bujua initially observed their movement from the top of the wall. It was not until the ghosts had scattered about 10 meters away that he suddenly raised his voice and started to sing, "Yo, children of the mountain, love the sun, love the sun, love the people of the mountain." His sudden action gave the viewers who were watching the game a shock, and then the shock turned into shock, and after a few seconds, they could not help but burst into laughter. Hey, this guy is definitely beep. Crazy, huh? I can't take it anymore. What is this, and what is this? Ha! I was scared when he started singing. But what is he trying to do? Brother Jew, we can still be friends without singing. Of course, Brother Jew did not know the reaction of the audience, and he did not care how the audience reacted. He only sang a few times to test the reaction mode of the ghosts. In the end, the ghosts ignored him. When Fong Bujua sang the line, "The folk songs here in a row, the folk songs here in a row," the ghosts that had gathered here earlier had all disappeared from his sight. From the data perspective, once these monsters walked into the shadows where the light could not reach, they would enter a place similar to the phase space and disappear temporarily. Phew! At this point, Brother Jew finally let out a sigh of relief and stopped singing. It seems that these guys only follow their sense of smell and do not respond to sound or images. Thinking of this, Fong Bujua shrugged. Well, at least I know the movement pattern of the monsters. As he said this, he turned around and prepared to leave. But at this moment, a strong wind came from the front of Brother Jew at a 45-degree angle. Fong Bujua's reaction was really fast. In this split second, he instinctively leaned back and dodged the attack with an extreme posture. He let the chopping wave fly past the tip of his nose. F***CKU. Then Brother Jew cursed and did a backflip that angered Newton. He slid 1 meter across the wall and regained his balance. He yelled at the person in front of him, "Who are you? Do you really need me to introduce myself?" At this time, the leader of Zombie Blade's first team, First is King, was already standing on the stone road outside the courtyard wall. He was holding a large sword and looked up at Brother Jew. "Based on my estimation, Captain Fong, you must have studied the video of our team's competition before the competition, right?" "Oh." Fong Bujua quickly recognized the man. "I was wondering who it was. So, it is Captain First is King." He pretended to drag out his voice and continued. "No wonder you are the leader of Zombie Blade's first team. You found me so quickly." "You." First is King's lips twitched uncontrollably, and there was a deep sense of pain in his voice. In the middle of the night, standing on the wall, singing 2/3 of the song, 18 twists and turns of the mountain road. He paused for 2 seconds to organize his words. Let me put it this way, as long as they are within 1 kilometer of this place, even if they didn't hear the gunshots earlier, they will definitely come to take a look. Fong Bujue replied as he quietly took out his military shovel from his backpack. I didn't expect Captain First as King to be able to say the title of the song, 18 Twists and Turns of the Mountain Road. Not many young people these days know about this song. Looks like our taste in music is quite compatible. First as King narrowed his eyes and looked at Brother Jew with caution. I don't want to continue this conversation with you. Brother Jew ignored First as King and continued. About that, there's a saying in an ancient poem. It's hard to stay when you meet a bosom friend on the road. Strong songs and hot dances are a gift to you. Which dimension did you hear this ancient Indian poem from? First Yue King was really annoyed, so he couldn't help but voice his displeasure. I think it's better to do it now than later. Fong Bujue continued. Why don't you and I sing a song called Mountain Song first, and then we fight after that? I refuse. First as King's answer was very decisive. But Tai Chi Kung Fu makes steam buns. It's earth-shattering. Brother Jew took the opportunity to sing. I say, are you sure this is Mountain Song, and not the insert song of Shaolin Soccer? First as King's expression was constipated, and he was extremely embarrassed. No. The insert song of Shaolin Soccer should be. Fong Bujue shook his head and changed the tune. Shaolin Kung Fu is awake, good. Shaolin Kung Fu is strong, good. Ew. Give it to me. At this moment, First as King finally could not take it anymore. Enough is enough. He roared, raised his sword, and flew up to the top of the wall. At this moment, First as King really could not wait any longer because he felt like if he continued to argue with Brother Jew, he would go crazy. Fong Bujue saw his opponent come up to him and laugh coldly. He thought to himself, I was right. The members of Zombie Blade today are obviously different from usual. It looks like they didn't take their medicine. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.